Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another very special SBC podcast. We actually have a very special guest today. We have, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Christy Karacas. I'm the co-creator of Superjail and creator of Ballmasterz 9009 and Ballmasterz Rubicon on Adult Swim, HBO Max.
Yeah, we have Christy here. We're going to talk about the new special, Ballmasterz Rubicon, and the show. I'm actually very excited for this episode. I've been anticipating for a long time. Here as well, we have Ballmasterz superfan, Crab.
Hi, I'm the ball schizo, yeah.
Hey, Crab, what's up?
Nothing much. I'm glad to be on here. When I heard that they wanted to do an episode with both of us on there, I was psyched. I was like, hell yeah, dude! You can't do the Ballmasterz.
You can't do the Ballmasterz like yin and yang.
Fan.
You gotta have.
Yeah, well, you set this up, didn't you?
Oh no, it was. Wait, I mean, I guess I set everything up, but like I was invited on, you know.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, there's no reason we wouldn't have you. It was like, I know it's your favorite thing ever, so let's do a Ballmasterz episode and not invite you on. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
We also have regular returning podcaster Ham.
Hi. I'm very excited for this.
So yeah, we have we only have just the four of us today. It's gonna be. I think this is gonna be a good episode. I don't know, how long do you want to go for? Usually we kind of just drag it out, and then whenever somebody wants to call it, we call it. So typically we go for like an hour, but if you want to go shorter, however much, it's fine.
No, I can talk all day about this stuff.
All right, sweet.
Hell yeah.
So we're gonna probably direct you with a volley of various questions relating to the show and your work and a lot of other things. I am. Personally, of us here, I am the resident old school anime fan. I'm a massive mecha nerd, and I know you have giant influences on that stuff. So I'm probably gonna pick your brain for that kind of stuff, and I'm excited to see what you have to say because I think we'll probably be on the same level.
Yeah, it's awesome. I was saying this to you know that site. What is it? Latino Review.
Heard the name. Never.
It's a site I go to all the time, and some of these interviews, I'm like, look, I'm like a nerd. I love anime, I love comics and movies and all this stuff, and I'm a fan too. So I listen to some of these sites and go to these things. So I was so excited about some of these things, and they were kind of surprised. They're like, you read this? I was like, dude, I go to the site every day.
All you'd have to do is watch the show because the show is just littered with it.
And I'll tell you this too, a lot of that too. It's not just me. It's a lot of the crew.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess this special, it wasn't because this special was, totally different than the show, but I guess we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear all that. But yeah, I'm sure you're a massive anime fan and just general nerd kind of, because you can tell from watching the show. There's no way,
Yeah, well, it's funny. I've said this in a lot of these things, but I'm old. I mean, I'm 48, right? But I got into anime when I was when I was a kid. I mean, I must have been 6 or 7. I used to watch. I remember if you got up really early, before even 7 a.m., Gatchaman would be on, or sometimes they'd have. I'm from New Hampshire and I'm from America. I live in America, but they'd have anime on really early in the morning. And I remember as a kid, I was like, why are these shows cooler? Why do they look different? Do you remember Force 5 or
Yeah.
There were certain ones that were on Transor Z, old ones. And then as I got a little older, more elementary school, I know Robotech, was 3 shows combined and all that, but Robotech, Voltron,
yeah,
you could tell, you're these shows look different, they're cooler. Then Transformers came out, and I remember reading about it and how, a lot of the I remember reading this crazy thing. I teach storyboarding and animation at RISD, and I was telling them this thing, you talk about all these things in storyboarding, if you have an upshot, the character's dominant and all this stuff, and you design a character, if the head is small, they look bigger. And I remember reading this thing about the Transformers, some of the original molds in Japan, they'd make the head real small so the body looked bigger, but in America, they thought Americans wanted to recognize the face, so they had to make the heads bigger, which I just thought was really interesting. I was like, I would never even think of that,
Yeah,
but I thought it was kind of cool.
I can tell already from you talking about this that we're gonna have a fun night.
Hell
yeah. But anyways, Robotech and all that, and then I don't know how old I was. I go to comic shops, and I would say, if you said how'd you get into anime, I just remember Viz, and maybe they're still a company, Viz Comics. I used to collect I still have like Justy and like Mai the Psychic Girl, and there were certain titles, and I was like, these are like Japanese comics. What are they? Like, I'm probably in 7th grade or something, or 6th grade. I didn't know, but I was like, I liked them. I liked the style. There's no internet. I didn't know shit. And there was like, zines, like fanzines. And so I'd start to get these fanzines, and I'd be like, well, what are these ones? And like there'd be they were breakdown outlines of anime, but I was like, I didn't get it. I was like, what's this for? And then I found out there was this comic shop like an hour from my house, and we go there, and you could buy the bootleg off the Laserdisc, but it was in Japanese. There's no subtitles. But then you'd get the zine that would have the outline, like some kind of remember, God, they had these funny names like Protoculture Addicts was one of them. It was like
in Macross.
Yeah, well, but Protoculture Addicts was like a zine for all anime, but like they'd have names like that, like, but they'd have a synopsis of like, here's a synopsis of Pat Labor, here's Gundam, whatever, and Guyver, these were the, this is again the probably, God, I want to say the early '90s, but in the back they'd have these ads, and I remember it was like, Akira came out on Marvel's brand Epic. It was kind of like what was DC's thing Sandman's on, like they're kind of
Vertigo.
Yeah, like Marvel's Epic was kind of like Vertigo. And I remember there was this ad, and I used to get Akira, and it was like fucking insane, and it was also, I think it was the first digitally colored comic ever. I might be wrong, but I think it was. And I loved it. I was obsessed with it. And I saw an ad in a magazine. It was like, order Akira, the movie. And I'm like, there's a movie of this? And I ordered it, and this thing came in the mail, and I put it in my fucking, the VCR, and it blew my fucking mind. Because again, there was no internet, it was like, I was like, what is this? And I want to say I was in junior high, probably.
Dude, Akira for the first time in junior high must have been a trip.
Dude, it was insane because you were like, this is like Disney animation, like I would show people and they would just be like, what is this? And I was like, it's this fucking thing from Japan. And then I tried to get more into it, but again, it was like, it wasn't like now where you can just look it up on the internet. It was like kind of hard. It was almost like when you go to a record store and you gotta like, talk to some cool guy or find a cool record. Like you're like, what is this stuff? And like I would go to, I don't even know if Comic-Con, I would go to comic conventions back then, but they were like really small, like in hotels. Like they were, they were about comics. There was no, there was like the shitty, and I say this affectionately, there was this Fantastic Four movie, but there wasn't, maybe there was Batman was the only superhero movie. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was a different time. And that's how I got into stuff. And Miyazaki also, like that. But the funny thing was, seeing Akira first kind of sucked because then I just thought everything was going to be that insane, and of course it's all great, but it's kind of like you saw one of the best ones,
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's like, it's crazy you mentioned that because the anime localization in the West, it's a very, very interesting slope because obviously, like, I'm a huge mecha nerd. I love Gundam, I love Macross, Pat Labor, all that stuff. So, looking back and looking at the ways that they would try to bring anime over to the West in back in the 80s and 90s is kind of crazy, especially when you look at a lot of like you look at Mexico or a lot of European countries and how they did it. They would just be like, oh, we're just gonna buy the airing rights and just air this and dub it. And it's like, no, in the West they had to rebrand it. They had to make Robotech, which was a culmination of 3 separate shows for some reason. Even Transformers is such a crazy thing because you have like, oh, let's buy the rights to like 5 separate toy lines and get some people from Marvel to mash them together into a weird like sci-fi mythos, and then make a cartoon
Force 5 was the same thing. It's like 5 different shows, but they just and the funny thing is this: when you're a kid, I feel like you can tell. You're like something's off.
Yeah, I know, because
on Battle of Planets when they cut to Seven's Arc 7, I'm like, why does this look like shit and the other part looks cool? And you can tell because you're psyched,
Yeah, for sure. It's such a bizarre thing. Like I'm sure you're familiar with Get a Robo.
Yeah, of course.
Do you know about the Star Avengers? The weird old like VHS attempt to localize like Getter G.
I don't know if I know that name, but it's kind of awesome. But
you're gonna want to Google it. Well, it's crazy. So basically, Star Avengers. So basically, what it was I think it was Get a Robo G, and then I think maybe 1 or 2 other things in a similar kind of mash
this is Force 5. What I'm talking about.
Oh, it is Force 5. Okay.
Yeah, because Force 5 was Transor Z, Get a Robo. Like it's God, I know what the robots look like. I don't know all their names, but yeah, because Force 5, and I feel like for some reason was Force 5 on HBO. Like I remember as a kid, it was like a big deal to see Force 5 because it was like fucking cool. I don't know.
wouldn't
That's how
know.
I felt.
Yeah.
I mean, how old are you guys? What are you, 30?
Oh, I'm 21.
Okay. Oh gosh, yeah. Well, that's the thing. It was a real
22.
treat. And
19.
Yeah, and the funny thing too is oh, you reminded me of something else when you were talking about that. Get it? Fuck. And
talking about
God,
Force
you know
5.
your stuff though.
No,
you're-
trust
you're-
me. I'm super involved in the in Vancouver. We have a local mecha community, so I like to go and I'm very involved in this stuff. So I know all the old school stuff because
Do you remember that
crazy
one?
thing?
Maddox something.
Yep.
Remember that one?
No, trust me, I know it
That
all.
one's
Maddox,
pretty cool.
You
Yeah.
name it. Megazone 23. You I could talk
Yep,
about
of course.
mecha for hours. Trust me.
Oh, when we
my
did this, so the guy wrote the special with Andy Royland. He's a nerd too with anime, but you wouldn't know it because I don't know. I was surprised how much he knew, but when we were talking about these old animes, we had these crazy talks with the special. Like he's like, "What style are you gonna do it?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"Because you say anime, it's a million different."
It's a very
styles.
broad. You could be like, oh, we're gonna do Leiji,
Yeah.
we're gonna do Akira Toriyama, we're gonna do Obari.
Oh
you know?
yeah, we would talk for hours about it. It was really funny.
Yeah.
Because I originally wanted to go super like, I don't know if it's 90s, but like I want it to be kind of like Macross or Bubblegum Crisis or like, you know when they have like shitload of cell shading, but it's
Yeah,
still
yeah,
cell?
because
or like
it's
Gunbuster,
essentially an
like,
OVA,
these-
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
It's essentially
totally,
an OVA,
totally.
so you wanted to have that like Gunbuster. Like, yeah, I could totally see the Gunbuster
Yeah.
thing. Like absolutely.
But-
I see
but
a lot of
what's funny is
Gunbuster
when
when
we-
I watch the OVA for sure.
Well, but the funny thing is when we did it, it was with Studio 4C, and I thought, and there's a ton to talk about with this, but they, I did all the rough designs, I did the storyboards, but they redesigned it and redid it. But so the first thing was I was like, oh my god, I'm so nervous. Like this is one of my, I mean, I'm a huge fan of like Mind Game and like everything they make, like Detroit Metal City, and then the animation director was Takashi Nakamura, who is the animation director of fucking Akira.
Yeah,
And he
that
did
must have been
fucking-
insane.
It was insane, but here's the weird thing. So I went so overboard on the storyboards, and when I sent it, and we have to do all the meetings with the translators during COVID, and they're like, this is too much. We're not doing this. And I was like, I just thought I would suck and you guys would be awesome, and you'd want to make this crazy animation. And they were like, we were thinking it's going to be very limited. And I was like, oh, okay. And then they went this whole thing. Do you know like Gold Lighton? Like he used to work on that, and but he likes old 60s stuff, which I also love. And they go, how about it's really minimal, like 60s, like Speed Racer? And I was like, they're trying to not do a good job. But the more I thought about it, I was like, this might be really cool because the things I were thinking were just obvious, like it's a 80s fucking it's Gunbuster or Macross or whatever. Yeah. And I love how it looks, and it's so cool. I mean, there was some stuff they cut that I wish they didn't cut, but I think that style was really, I kind of, in the end, I loved it. But it was funny because it wasn't what I originally was thinking at all.
Yeah. Well, no, I think it looked great. I think it turned out fantastic. The art style's wonderful.
I saw when you upload those videos on Instagram about the storyboard and stuff. While watching it, I saw a couple things that didn't make it in. Like I think you've talked about it in an interview before, but with Titanus's mech, when he like whips out his like saber or like scythe or whatever.
Yeah. He's got
Wasn't
the
there-
Grendizer scythe. Like
Yeah, wasn't it supposed to have like a name or something?
Yeah, we had this thing. Here's what's funny. Obviously, we do a lot of anime references, but another big reference was. Do you know Mega Beast Investigator Jaspion?
I know it because of
yes.
you.
It's like a Metal Hero kind of.
I'm not
like,
a
live
huge
action
Toku guy. I'm familiar with Metal Heroes to an extent because I have a couple friends who are like huge Toku heads. But my kind of whole knowledge base is more so in anime.
Well,
But
I
yeah,
don't know a lot about it either. But I have my friend Luca, who's awesome. He turned me on to this show, and he's like, "You got to see this show. It's crazy." And this show. When you see a trailer and it looks awesome, but then the show's kind of boring, even though it looks cool. This show is never boring. It's insane. It's
fucking nuts.
again, I guess the real what's the term you're saying? Togu or something?
Tokusatsu.
What's that? Like those kind of shows, like
like
Metal
Kamen
God?
Rider, Super Sentai, all that kind of stuff.
It's like that. So there's always Beast. There's like, but the main hero's kind of this like slacker space guy. It's almost like Space Dandy. It's like, but there's
that's cool.
there's a certain tone to it that's really funny and weird. And I just kept thinking like, how can I make this animation feel like you know, like I love B movies, I love 70s things, I love a lot of things, but I'm like, it's hard to get a tone with animation. Maybe because in live action you've got like subtleties of like an actor or the way the camera is, but we talked a lot about like how do we make it like, and so in a bunch of the first passes, you know how in those things like whenever something appears the name is on the screen all big, like Kill la Kill does it a lot.
Yeah,
we did that a ton, but then because this was all during COVID and with the translators, it was so confusing because I think you saw that part. Like yeah, I named everything. Like that's why in the script he always says shit like he'll be like you know, Cosmic Super Fortress Gold Diamond. Every time he saw it, the name would come on, and it was really funny. But then they got really confused with the boards, and they were like, "Should this be in Japanese or English?" And it just got kind of like we were like, "Ah, fuck it, we should just drop this." But we named stuff like Titanus's weapon was called something like Star Saber, you know, Death Rattler or something. We had just the most ridiculous names, and like the cool thing I noticed was in these shows, and this would happen in Just Beyond. Like the main bad guy's named Satan Gorth or something, but like I feel like they thought Gorth, like in my head I'm like they mean like goth or I just kept wondering, like sometimes words are off by one letter and it's like weird and I can't tell if it's like a mistake or what, but I started doing that. So like well I guess I didn't really do it, but like Demon Satar, I was thinking it'd be cool if his name was like Demon Satan, but then I was like, oh, wait, it's Demon Satar. And Satars are kind of mystical. I don't know, this idea of the names is really funny to me, but we didn't get to put any of that in. But that I tried to say the names a lot, but I feel like there was a lot of jokes that no one's going to notice. Yeah. Sorry, I'm rambling, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like no, I think the names of this stuff makes it like it's like when you know the Gundam names, it's so fun where you're like, oh, that's Rickdom, you know, that's Sazabi, that's like a Zaku, like you know the name and it's cool. It's like, and it's weird. You're like, what the fuck does this name mean?
Yeah, Gundams have fucking weird names. like I'm the first to tell you that they got some weird ass mobile suits out there. Like even back in the original, like we literally have one that's like, oh, Zegok, Gog, Action God.
Yeah, like what? Yeah, like what? And it's so cool and strange, and to me, it part of that kind of world building element of just. To me, it's just part of the fantasy and the excitement of like this made-up imaginary world, and I don't know, it's cool and fun.
No, hugely. That's one of my favorite elements of Gundam is just how weird the mobile suits in both their names and designs can kind of get. Like even with Gold Diamond. Like have you seen G-Reco?
No, what's that?
The Gundam series. It's a little bit. Yeah, Reconquista in
Is it new?
It's like 20. I want to say 2011. It's early 2010s.
Yeah.
It kind of went under the radar because.
Do you mean G Gundam?
No, that's different. That's like 90.
Wait,
that's 94.
G-Reco. I feel ashamed and angry.
Well, it didn't really make any ground in the West. It was the last one Tomino did. They're doing the movies right now actually for it, but they're not getting any traction over here.
Is it?
But yeah, there's a
G-R-E-K-O. I'm looking on my internet.
G-R-E-C-O. It was a Gundam show. It's set in the Universal Century actually, but set in the future. So.
Oh, weird. I've never fucking heard of this. This is wild.
There's a mobile armor in it called the I think it's called the Yggdrasil, and when I saw the Gold Diamond, I was like, that's so cool because it just reminded me of the Yggdrasil mobile armor from that.
Yeah, it's funny.
I can put a picture of it in chat if you want.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I want to see it. No, and it's funny because I was thinking about in Gundam like what's that one? Like in Char's Counterattack, there's that weird. Like, the ones that are not humanoid stick out.
Yeah,
like,
are you talking about the Alpha Jury? The big mobile armor that Quest uses, right? Yeah, that's the Alpha Jury. Yeah, but here, look at chat.
I can't believe I can have this conversation with everyone because oh wow, what the fuck is this? This is crazy.
So it's a mobile armor,
this is
and it's a giant pyramid, and it shoots like crazy ass psychedelic homing lasers everywhere.
It's really cool. Holy shit!
It kind of looks like the enemy ship from the beginning of Rubicon.
Yeah,
in
I was
fact,
gonna say they give me huge vibes from.
I got a question about that. So, was that just like a bait and switch or something like that? What that wasn't like? Who was that? Was that the Satar or was that someone else in the beginning of Rubicon?
Here's the thing, and this is the truth. So when we, the idea of what happens in Rubicon was always the plan, but the plan was always to move it to space and turn it into like a space anime. Like, 'cause again, I mean, Macross. I mean, I love these shows. I mean, I love them. I really do. But we didn't know who they were going to be. So when we did the season 2 finale, we had the aliens show up and it's kind of mysterious, and we're like, well, we don't know who they are, but we don't need to worry about it. We'll figure it out later. And to be honest, originally, I wanted it to be I wanted to be the twins from Superjail and like connect the universes. But then everyone was like, all the writers in the writer's room, and again, I can make the final thing, but I like to listen to people and, you know, be open-minded. And they were like, dude, that's too easy. Like, there's all this multiverse shit with Marvel and all this. I was like, yeah, you're kind of right. It seems like we're ripping it off. But I thought it'd be so funny if it was like, what the fuck, the twins? And it was like, if, you know, the universe was one, you know, like My Little World or something. But then we didn't know. And then the other thing is, when we were finishing, we were so close to being over budget. Like, those designs, like, you don't even understand. We were cranking that shit out. Like, it'd be like, I don't know what this has to look like. Fuck it, it's going to be this. Like, we were just banging it out and doing it. And so later, because, you know, they kind of kill those bad guys and you don't even know what they were. What I was thinking was they were some world of the Satyrs that sort of worked for Titanus. Like if we do the bigger story, we get to do more. Like, the Satyr are like, you know, super omnipotent, super powerful beings. Like, nothing challenges them. The only thing that challenges them is this appearance of like the necromammoth. But I was thinking in the bigger world, like, that was almost like the first wave that kind of came to like, and those things, actually, those were kind of like a Gurren Lagann, not a ripoff, but did you see how some of those
I could totally
mechs have
see
that,
it.
like, yeah, like big heads and kind of little arms and stuff. And I was thinking they're like maybe just robots or they work for Titans, but
like scouts.
Honestly, wasn't that thought out? Yeah, but the one thing I hate about it, it's funny, I really actually bugs me. That it bugs me, but in a way it might make sense. That leader of the ship kind of looks like Gold Diamond, but then I thought, well, maybe Quasar's technology is the same. I don't know. I'm always trying to make sense of it, but it sort of doesn't make sense. And there's this whole thing too that I don't know if you noticed, but you know how there's all these like little ships around the big ship? They have ball shapes in them, and I was gonna do a thing where they had balls too, that like Quasar making up the game wasn't him, it was just their technology. But sometimes when we're writing this stuff, it just happens so fast. We'll be like, oh, this thing's due, we gotta make decisions. Some of that stuff was a little not smart.
Ambitious?
Well, it was like even like this whole idea of like, what is a Ballmaster? Like, we kind of kept making it up because Network kept being like, what is a Ballmaster? Why are these guys a Ballmaster? And I'm like, I guess I got to make this up because part of me was just gonna never explain it. Like you don't explain why, you know, there's always some kid fusing with a robot or something. But like this idea that, and again, I don't want to ruin the myth, but I don't know. I sort of wish. There's some things I was thinking like I had, again, maybe this will happen if we do the thing, but I had this idea that, like, you know, Quasar's been on the run from them, right? And we didn't really get into this, but I'm assuming if you're listening, you know the show or something. But you know, I was thinking Quasar's been going around the galaxy. You know, he's kind of this immortal life form, right? He's been making games and playing with other life forms forever. So like, I was thinking if we do Odyssey, like, you might go to other planets where there's a whole different game that he had created that's some civilization that's still existing. And what do they have? You know, maybe they don't have a Ballmaster, but they might have some other weird shit. And maybe he has to kind of like, you know how like in Flash Gordon, like he has to unite all the people against Ming.
Yeah.
You know, Quasar might get the help of all these worlds that he kind of fucked with to fight this big threat. There's a bunch of ideas we've been thinking of, and like Titanus and him. And I'll say this stuff because I assume only a fan would listen to this. Like, the big backstory with him we want to do was that, you know, you're like, why does Titanus hate him so much? And I was thinking like, they were like so close as brothers, and they were always going to explore the universe together and do all these things. They have this history, and then Quasar, though, you know, he's kind of like the equivalent of like a socialite. Like he, you know, he's neglecting his duties and having fun, and he's not being, you know, loyal to his duties and his people, and he just disappeared. He fucking left, and Titanus is pissed, and he's just like, you know, it's like he got betrayed and he got let down. He's like, I'm gonna make it my fucking life to track this guy down and make him pay. And he started to just hate him and became this militant, crazy guy. And I'm sure we'll figure out more, but I think it'd be fun to get into like, who are these guys? Why do they, you know, I like this idea of these other other weird characters, and I don't know. I think it could be so fun to just turn it into a show.
I agree 100% actually. Yeah, like when you told me that, like, initially it was going to be Superjail, but then look at how much the idea progressed past that. Like it makes the world feel so much bigger instead of just kind of leading into a crossover, which it definitely could have been fun, but sometimes it's nicer to have your world stand on its own feet, right?
And they could still show up. Who knows?
Yeah, there's not never say never.
See, I definitely want them to show up for like. You can just see them, or just show up on screen for 1 second and have them say something funny. That'd be enough for me. I'd be like, that's all I need.
Yeah, or even just one crossover episode.
Yeah, and the other idea, how you never really explain like what Bob is. I was also thinking it was going to be just tons of Bobs. Like they're just.
I would love a Bob.
This is what we've been talking about for so long.
That's something else that might happen. Yeah, Bob. I feel like we've never really gotten to talk about, and I think we need to.
Yeah.
Like,
let's talk about Bob.
Like, so many people who have gotten to the show, they're like, Bob's my favorite character. He just sits there, does nothing. He's awesome. And I remember I posted my story. Someone was like, what would you like to see in a continuation? I was like, I want to see them go to a planet full of Bobs. And it'd be funny if they just go there and the whole planet's just silent. They just don't talk. Or the opposite, just Bob just chooses not to talk.
Bob's the outlier. Yeah. Bob's like the dipshit.
Yeah, Bob can't talk. He just chooses not to.
There was a whole backstory. So when I came up, so this is the first show I made by myself. Like I had partners for Superjail. I've made animations by myself, but I never made a show by myself, right? So when I made Ballmasterz, it was really hard, and I was really like, it took forever because I kind of was stumbling through the process, right? And there was all these versions that didn't happen where like the game used to be so, how do I say this? There was a lot of versions that were too complicated to do, but some of them were like there was backstories for every character, and the game used to be way more weird. Like there were these, I think you saw on the Instagram, like there were these things called game wizards, and they were kind of like, they would run the games were almost, the old version, like it was kind of like almost like a temple or like a religious experience, but it was still a game. And I just think if I knew what I was doing more then, it could have been crazier and cooler, but you learn as you go, and I'm just hoping if we could do it again, I could really get it weirder, because the other thing is, when we did Ballmasterz, like I wanted it to be nothing like Superjail. I wanted them to be 22 minutes, I wanted it to be a serialized, like an anime, and at the time the network was like, no, they're 11 minutes, and we want one-offs, because it's hard, when we have serialized, like you have to program stuff in order, and there were all these things. And the funny thing is, near the end of season 1, there was like 3 episodes that kind of went together, and we were actually behind, and we just wrote them as a group. We were like, let's write these 3 like it's one story, but just kind of have them kind of continue a little, like what they said don't do. And then the network read them, and they were like, these are the best ones. They're great. I'm like, you guys, this is what we wanted to do. It's because they're fucking continuing and they have development. Like this is like what an anime is. And they were like, oh yeah, you're right. And it was sort of frustrating because I was like, man, if they had let us do it the way we wanted, I wonder if it would have been. I mean, look, it's fine, but it might have been better. I don't know.
Yeah, you'll always be wondering though, right? Like it's not. The show's great for what it is, right?
And it's all good. Like I don't complaining, but it's these behind the scenes things I think are really could be interesting for a fan.
Oh yeah,
because it's funny. It's not. I'll tell you, it's never. Anyone that tells you like what they made, like it's exactly what I thought in my head. It's like bullshit. Like it.
No,
so many
never.
Factors happen from who's working on it to the schedule. Just so many things influence what you do that it just becomes its own strange thing, and that's what's kind of fun and special about it because it takes on its own life,
That's any creative endeavor. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a book. It could be a painting. Anything. Yeah. It never is at the end of the journey. It's never how you envision it at the start because you're constantly changing and learning, and you make mistakes, and you have to adapt, compromise. It's a constant stream of experience. But that's why I'd love to work in I have a lot of respect for the project. It's like something I would love to do in the future, something like that.
What do you all do in your life?
I work at a hobby store.
Oh, that's right. Like games and models and shit?
Like Gundams.
Oh, whoa. Do you make them?
I told you. You should see my room. I'm not going to turn my camera on because it's a mess. But, I've got tons of Gundams all over my room. I have a double Zeta right next to me, actually.
Oh, that's awesome. I had the only ones I had is I had. Oh, which ones did I have? I had. What's that one? Not 008. What's the one where there's two Gundams and one's really big? Is that 083?
Stardust Memory?
Like he has this big ass.
Oh, the
shield.
GPO2, yes.
Yeah, I had that, and I had the green, just the GM, like the normal infantry one from Char's Counterattack.
The Jagan.
Yep, and I had
Jagan, that's it.
I had the Crossbone Vanguard from F91.
Oh, sweet! The
kind
Burger
of looks
Gyros.
kind of like a.
The one with the
Shit,
big
I don't
like
remember his
cape,
name.
the one with the big cape made out of boosters, or the normal grunt.
No, I had the ones like infantry, like he had kind of a big.
Oh, the Denon,
like
the gas mask one, right?
Yeah, he almost looks like a World
That's
War
the
II
Denon.
guy or something.
Yeah, the Denon.
Yeah.
I love that thing.
That's pretty cool.
I have the Burger Gyros, which is the one that the ace in that movie uses. It's sitting in my closet.
purple
right now.
one?
I built it yet. Yeah, it's the purple one.
Yeah.
That one's sick.
Oh, I love that shit. I mean, it's so good.
All right, give me a top 3
Do you
mobile
like-
suits right now.
Oh man. Well,
Loaded questions.
it's weird. Sazabi. I like Rick Dom.
Mm-hmm.
I like those weirder ones. Like, see, now I'm gonna name too many, but those ones in 080 in the beginning, they're kind of, those weird underwater ones. They're all have funny
Oh,
names.
the high gogs?
Blue Bleggers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
high
those
gog.
are pretty cool.
Yeah, those are sick. Everyone likes.
You know what
the
I
high
like?
gog.
What's the weird Gundam series where like it was like the anniversary and they're kind of discovering them like they're
Turn A.
ancient, but it's all
Turn
the
A.
shit. Yeah, Turn A
Yes,
is
Turn A.
kind of
That's
rad.
that's my
It's
favorite
weird.
Gundam series.
It's
It's
yeah,
all
it's
my favorite
good.
design. I don't know if you know the story. Sid Mead, the
Oh,
godfather of like sci-fi design. He did those designs.
Yep, that is insane.
He's the only Westerner to ever design for Gundam. He's the only one to ever do it. And,
And he
yeah,
took,
it shows
he took
because
that
it's like
thing and
he just completely
No,
did something different.
yeah, and I remember that article where he took that what do you call it, I don't know, the crest that's on the head and he pushed it down, near
He
the
made it a
mouth.
mustache.
It's cool though.
No, it's
I don't know,
awesome.
it
It's my
works.
favorite Gundam design of all time. But yeah, because when the show first came out, because it was so it was very. It's like I don't know. Have you seen the show in its entirety?
I have like it's so weird because like
It's
got all these
antithetical to
mirrors
Gundam
to
in a
other
lot of ways.
things. Yeah, and then it's got like those weird moon people and
Yeah. It's very inspired by old school like 70s 60s sci-fi. It's got those huge inspirations of it, but it's also kind of a meta sort of commentary on Gundam as a series itself. And
Yeah.
it's funny. It flopped when it aired in Japan for the first time. Because it was just so different, like in the designs and in the story and how the world was presented.
No,
and
it's
it
funny
never
'cause
got
when
localized.
when I think of it, it's not a popular one, but I really liked it.
I love it. I've
Yeah.
seen it like probably I've seen the show twice and I've watched the movies once. But yeah, it's definitely my favorite Gundam series. Going back to it all these years later, after kind of digesting all of the story and everything, it's got some really great talking points, and just really great world building. But yeah, it's definitely my favorite.
And it's complex.
It's very complex. I'd say it's arguably the most complex because it incorporates kind of theology from every other. Because it was made by Tomino, right? Who's the original creator. It was kind of meant to be his magnum opus of Gundam. So it incorporates elements from every other, not just of his shows, but like Wing, G, X, all of those ones.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. You're more of an expert than me, but I do know. No, but I know. I do know some of this. It's again. I have one friend. I mean, I have a couple friends who like anime, but I have this one friend who's a real anime nerd, and I say this with great respect and reverence. But it's funny. He actually wrote one episode on season 1. He wrote God, which episode? He wrote the episode that has the one with Rudy, like the one that has the Flower of Life reference.
Oh yeah, that one.
When Flip has to fight, train that kid or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy, his name's Ben Cochio. He writes live action. He wrote that movie A Place Beyond the Pines with Ryan Gosling? Like,
yeah, actually,
like where he
wait,
rides the motorcycle.
He wrote that movie?
He wrote that. Yeah, we went to college together. He co-wrote it, but he's a writer to live action, but he loves anime. And we met in college. It was kind of like I went to art school. Like I went to RISD, and I guess people liked anime, but it wasn't like cool like it was now. Like you were kind of like they had an anime, like Brown and RISD had anime clubs, and you'd go, you'd watch animes and all this. It was kind of neat. Yeah. But I remember when I met him, he's like, and again, I'm curious if you like this show. He was like, Have you seen Giant Robo? And I was like, no.
Yes,
like, oh, dude, you got to watch Giant Robo. And Giant Robo to this day stands up. It's so amazing. Like the music and the spectacle.
It is
design,
a top tier. It is a top tier OVA. It's so good. It's
so good. And anyways, Ben got me into Giant Robo, but when he got to write all the episodes, because we with our budgets, I supervise the writers' room, but they'll be like, how many writers do you need? It's weird how this works, Adult Swim, but you'll be like, oh, I know these people and whatever, and some of them are going to write 2, and some will write 1, and he only had time to write 1. But I remember we were like, can you believe we met in college? And he used to have a Robotech poster on his wall in college, and I'm like, we were in college liking anime, and now we're making this fucking anime show. This is crazy.
It's so sick. That's the dream.
Well, that's the other thing that makes me when people are like, they say it's a parody, but the way we're talking is like, I don't think it's parody at all. Like I know it's not real anime, but it's
its own
like,
thing. It's
more of a
it pays
homage.
reference.
But I'm not making fun of it, is what I mean.
It's kind of like what Gurren Lagann is to old anime. Because that's essentially, like, you look at Gurren Lagann, like, that show got so popular, but the whole thing about it was like, it was meant to celebrate all of the tropes in mecha that had surpassed it. The young boy getting in the fateful encounter with the robot, right? The big brother figure.
Giant Robo, too, was kind of a throwback to the...
Well, Giant Robo was based on a really old live-action series.
Yeah, Johnny Sacco is Giant Robo.
Yeah.
You know your stuff.
Yeah, that's sick. That is awesome. Yeah, no, I don't. Trust me, I know my stuff. But yeah, you're saying like anime being mainstream now is it's kind of crazy. But even the way it is kind of in the West, it's like the stuff that's popular is kind of the big shonen ones. But if you're somebody who likes older anime, still even now that stuff's still pretty. It's not super easy to get your hands on comparatively to some of the bigger ones, right? Like even now. With how mainstream it is, because it's a lot of like like Attack on Titan, Demon Slayer, Dragon Ball, like those are like Hunter x Hunter, JoJo's. Those are a lot of the big ones over here right now, right? But if you're somebody who likes like Leiji Matsumoto or even Gundam is still relatively niche in the anime world. Even now, even in Japan, it's kind of coming back now. That we've got like Witch from Mercury airing and stuff like that. Gunpla's gotten a lot more popular since COVID, but. A lot of that older stuff is still definitely a niche. You're somebody who likes really old stuff as like Robotech Macross, because it's not something people talk about in the mainstream anime community anymore.
No, it's funny because I've learned so much about a lot of the newer anime from people on the crew. Mm-hmm. Like in the episode with like the JoJo dance reference.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't my idea. That was like there's this guy Jacob who's amazing, and he does a lot of the character design for the show, and he got me into, because I was like, Jacob, tell me I want to know about anime I don't know, because I love anime, but I can't, it's hard to even keep track of everything. And he's the guy that got me into JoJo's. Like I'd never seen JoJo, and I was like, how the fuck have I never seen this show? It's insane. And I got so into it. And and a lot of times I don't know if you know this, we made the show at Titmouse, and like when you're at lunch, we're watching videos, we're hanging out. It's really fun. It's like everyone's kind of, we're all into this stuff. So everyone was he's like, oh, you don't know the JoJo dance? And we kept, I don't know, a bunch of us are watching the dance. I was like, we should do this dance. We should parody it. And everyone was like, can we do that? And I was like, I don't think anyone will care. Like, who's going to say anything? And then we just did it. And then all the, the fans were just like, oh my God, it's the JoJo dance. And it's like,
that's awesome.
A lot of this was just talking with the crew and making jokes and having fun,
Mm-hmm.
My first time watching, when that scene came on, it definitely caught me off guard. I was like, no fucking way they put this in. That's so rad.
Oh, and when they drew the Lulu, like her hair gets like that, it was kind of like they just let us mess around and have fun, And, what's funny about JoJo? I watch stuff subtitled. I kind of don't like dubs. But
I can understand
JoJo dubbed is really funny, because it's so weird. Like he's always like, no, and he just says all this weird shit, and
the dubs are hilarious.
Yeah, they're I kind of like watching both of that.
I think when it comes to sub versus dub, it's very dependent because a lot of the stuff I watch is older, so a lot of that stuff either doesn't have dubs or it has bad dubs.
Yeah.
I think there was kind of a sweet spot in the 90s and the 2000s with anime dubbing, like Cowboy Bebop, obviously, I think is kind of the gold standard for
that's
anime
not
dubbing.
bad. Yeah.
I quite like the Gurren Lagann dub too, actually.
That's not bad either. Yeah, you're right. Because I watched a lot of Gurren Lagann. Again, the same guy Jacob got me into that when I was trying to write Ballmasterz. I was like, it's not similar, but they find a robot, and there are a lot of tropes and similarities.
Well, Gurren Lagann is meant to kind of embody those tropes, right? So it's got them all. It's got obviously the big one for Gurren Lagann was it was heavily based off Getter Robo because the guy who wrote Gurren Lagann worked with the original writer for Getter Robo, Ken Ishikawa, right? And he was a huge fan of it. So he basically kind of the second half of Gurren Lagann basically just kind of does all the Getter Robo stuff. Like, oh, they're gonna go to space. They're gonna fight these like god tier entities, and there's gonna be this power that's like, oh, humans can control it, but it's like ultimately they're going to be subservient to it or destroyed by it, right? Like,
well, it's funny, like with Ballmasterz, when I was trying to do it, there was this huge mental block of like, I've said this in a lot of other interviews. I really struggled for a while because I was like, I can't make this good enough. I was trying too hard, like I can't make this good enough, and I was comparing it too much. And I was watching shit like, at that time it was like Kill la Kill and Ping Pong and like really good fucking shit that was amazing. And I saw, I'm a David Lynch fan. I'd watched Mulholland Drive, and for some reason, sometimes after I watch a movie, I'll like look up like interviews about it or just articles about it to try to like understand it better or something. And because basically I love Mulholland Drive, and I'm like, I don't get this. And I read this interview where it's like, this isn't the most perfect thing, but you're basically getting in David Lynch's brain. Like it's flawed, but you're seeing him and his world,
for sure.
Whatever the way it was written. And it made me go, you know what? Ballmasterz just needs to be like my version of anime. I don't need to worry too much. It doesn't have to be perfect. Oh, I also like what's the other one? One Punch Man was at the time too really big. And I mean, these things are really good. I mean, but again, even a minimal thing is good. But anyways, when I stopped trying to compare and just tried to do it and have fun, that's when it sort of came together.
Well, I was gonna say, okay. I was going to say, even, like, the funny thing about that is anime as a medium is probably one of the most derivative, because it's like, again, you're talking about Kill la Kill, Gurren Lagann, and One Punch Man. A lot of those shows exist to highlight pre-existing tropes. Like, again, like I said with Gurren Lagann, like, it was basically kind of a Getter Robo fan fiction, and it paid homage to, like, Gundam, Gao Gaigar, tons of stuff, right? Same thing with Kill la Kills. It's still a very unique feeling show, but it's ultimately built out of
you're right.
tropes.
That one's... what's that one? It's just like it even looks like it.
I can't remember the name. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but you know what the thing is with anime though, and again, not the thing. There's so many things, but one thing I think though, and everything I agree with everything you're saying, but a lot of these things are based on a manga, and the manga would be made by one person. And one thing I think is different from anime and like say Western stuff is where, again, I love Marvel, I like comics and stuff, but it's a company and maybe there's artists making stuff, but it's all going through this machine. But I think the animes seem, I could be wrong, but I wonder if they seem unique sometimes because even though, like, One Punch Man looks nothing like the original manga, but it's still
comic.
Based on some unique, like some person's vision, so it retains this sort of autonomy or some kind of originality. And I think there's something, because like when you're pitching an animation, I'm pitching a show to anyone pitching a show. They're pitching to a network, they're pitching to a company, whatever, and you're getting all this input and all this bullshit. But like when they're deciding to make Chainsaw Man, they're like, okay, the thing already exists, so they're basing it off that with this kind of reverence. And I think there's something about that. I think one of the reasons I find anime exciting, because, and again, I know a lot of it's derivative and all these kind of things and homages, but it's still also like, sometimes I watch them, I'm like, how the fuck did someone think of this? It's so weird.
Yeah, it maintains that kind of individualism to it, right? Like,
Yeah.
Well, that's the fun thing, right? Even though something's derivative in some sense, like everything is at the end of the day. That's just kind of part of the human condition. Is we are built off of what we've absorbed and what we've experienced, right? And in some regard, and there's no way you're gonna write something or draw something that's wholly original because you are built out of your experiences. And it's not about whether or not you're derivative. It's like you can totally, like, you know, take ideas or, you know, even kind of make your story based off of like something that already exists, but it's that matter of, can I feel something unique in there, or is it like, does it just feel like I'm ripping it off, or does it's ultimately it's a feeling
genuine
more than anything, right? It's
Yeah.
intention more than anything. It's not like about, oh, you know, is this thing wholly original, this is too similar to this. It's like, no, it can be similar. It's just like, is this genuine? Like, what does this have to do with you?
That's kind of what happened too. Again, when and truthfully, I remember I just was so pressured. I was like, this is, again, I just was like, this is bad. I hated all these, I can't explain it, but it's like I was up against a wall, and when I just said, like, God, don't give a shit, just fucking, you watch this stuff because you like it and it's fun, have fun. Like, make it fun.
For sure.
You know, like,
for sure.
And then it kind of just came easier. And, yeah, I don't know, it's interesting.
Yeah. Like 9 times out of 10, when you stop worrying about something to just do, you're just going to get better results.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can't, believe me, I'm a total worrywart type of personality, and you worry all night, it's not going to fix anything. You just got to either deal with it or just forget about it.
Yeah, 100%. I'm in the same boat. It's a very bad habit to break. But yeah, you gotta, especially when you're creative, right? Because you're gonna second guess yourself every step of the way, and even like just with building Gunpla, because like I'm a kind of guy, like, I don't just stop it there. I do my like original designs. I do the scratch building, kit bashing, I do all of that stuff, right? So it's like I'll start a project and I'll be like, okay, here's my original idea in mind, and then I'll get to a point where I'm trying to do something that's just not working, and it's like, well, I could either keep brute forcing my way through this, or I could just do something different, right?
Mm-hmm. You gotta know, like, look, I'm a big believer in, like, working hard and being consistent, but sometimes you have to be like, okay, you know, nothing's happening today, take a break, you know, have some work-life balance, as they say.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a difference between, you know, there's a difference between work ethic and, like, running yourself rampant. There's a difference between, like, you know, that and also learning to compromise with yourself, or with, you know, if you're working on a project with a team.
Animation is pretty sadistic, and to be honest, I mean, the conditions in Japan, God, it's crazy. I got a guy, God, you guys should interview this guy. I have a friend, his name's Henry Thurlow. I don't know if you know this guy. He worked on Superjail season 1. He ended up moving to Japan. He learned Japanese. He's an animator in Japan. He's animating this, God, is it fucking, I think he's animating an episode of Naruto or something, or some. No, it's what's the other one?
Horror Zone?
No, what's the one with the pirates?
One Piece.
Yeah, One Piece. And like, I mean, this guy is directing a One Piece. I mean, a white guy. I mean,
That's
American,
crazy.
you know. And it's amazing. And the stories are crazy. And again, I don't know much about. It sucks. I've never even been to Japan. Like, if COVID didn't happen, I could have went there. But just think it's pretty interesting. I mean, but anyways, the condition, I know when he started, I mean, it's like, he was saying, like, you get paid by the drawing, and like, if it's not completely perfect, it's thrown out, you don't get paid. So it's like, if, you know, you might, you know, say you only get 5 drawings approved, you get, you know, $5 or whatever, however it works, you know what I mean?
Jeez.
Yeah, it sounds insane,
but
but he also said, you know, he had the argument of, like, he goes, I'm not making $1 million, but like, it's very safe here, I live in a cheap place, and he's really happy that he loves it.
That is the upside, though, I guess. Yeah, I guess living in it's from what I've heard, it's pretty affordable living in Japan compared to like where I live. I live in Vancouver. Like, holy shit, the housing market here is horrible. It's unlivable.
Oh, I live in New York. I'm in fucking I'm in Astoria. My rent is so ridiculous for my place. I'm actually moving to Providence next month, Providence, Rhode Island, because it's like, it's so cheaper, and it's like this. I mean, I don't get this country's. I don't know what's going on with the housing costs right now. It's out of control.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Maybe it's the whole
I'm
world.
in Canada, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, Vancouver is supposed to be real nice, though, right?
It's nice. It's nice enough here. There's definitely some problems. The biggest issue here is just the cost of living. It's just insane. It's just psychotic.
I mean, that's where, isn't there a lot of animation though there? Because that Titmouse that Titmouse has an office there.
We have a ton. I am currently kind of trying to crack into voiceover a little bit because we have a lot of that here as well. So
yeah, I go to the Ottawa Animation Festival every year. I love that festival.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah, actually, we were funny. We have you ever heard of the show Reboot?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that was made here.
Yeah.
We just actually, me and Ham and our other friend, we just finished watching it. It was their first time. I grew up with that show. But like that studio Mainframe that made that and Beast Wars, that was Vancouver based. That was first CGI cartoon, and it was made here in Van. And we have a lot of animation here. I have a couple friends who work in animation. Same with film. We have a lot of film here. I used to work in film a little bit. I have a friend who works in sound. Another friend who works in animation. There's a lot of entertainment here in Vancouver. It's like the cheaper to film in LA.
Yeah, they get all the tax breaks probably.
Yeah, all the tax breaks. Yeah, it's just general. It's just way cheaper. So Netflix likes to come here. So yeah, you end up working, if you're working in film or TV, you're going to be working on a lot of Netflix stuff. I worked on a Netflix show or two.
Do you want me to? I feel bad. I've been on such a random. How do I say it? Going off on tangents. I didn't know if you wanted to know. Yeah, do you have any specific questions?
We don't really have. I kind of had rough talking points in my head. This is good because this is the kind of flow we usually have, where it's like I'd rather than go through bullet points. I'd rather just hear somebody talk, and if that gets you going on a tangent,
it's really not.
This has all
like
been
it a lot. I like it.
This has all been super. Yeah, this has all been super interesting so far. I've quite enjoyed it, and I'm fine to keep going on a little bit if you want to steer the conversation towards
I'm fine with whatever.
Go back to Ballmasterz.
I do have a question for the class.
Let's let Ham and Crab talk.
Besides Christy, of course, since he made it. When did all you discover Superjail or Ballmasterz or whichever?
I actually caught it on Adult Swim one night. I can't remember which episode. I think it might have been the second episode. I think where they make the Ballmaster for the first time. I think that was it, because I saw that and was like, holy shit, there's like a show on Adult Swim and it's doing super robot, like Mazinger Get a Robo stuff. That's awesome. And I think that was when I kind of became a fan. And then obviously since meeting you guys, because you guys are also really into it, so I've kind of, and with Rubicon coming out, it's got me a lot more into the show now.
Yeah, we watched Rubicon day one. I remember though when I was younger, like the telltale sign that I was up too long would be like, oh shit, Superjail just came on. I need to go to bed.
The first time I saw Superjail, I think I was 10 years old or something. I saw it on the TV and I was like, oh my god, what the fuck is going on? This is crazy. And when it came to Ballmasterz, when it first came out, I heard about it and I was like, I didn't have cable at the time, and I was like, I really want to watch this, but then it kind of slipped my mind for a bit. I didn't hear it got second season, and then one night I was scrolling through HBO Max and I saw it and I was like, oh, finally, I can give it a chance. And when the second episode came on and they formed the Ballmaster, I was like, hell yeah, this is my favorite show of all time right now. This rocks. And when I finished season 2 and ended, I was like, is there a continuation? And I looked all online. There was no word on season 3 or continuation, and that was probably the worst time to be a Ballmasterz fan, because it was just, you heard nothing until Christy, I don't know if you heard about this, but it was August of 2022 on this website called eidr.org. There was a listing for Ballmasterz Rubicon, and I found that out and I was like, holy fucking shit, it's happening. It was the greatest day for a Ballmasterz fan. And then suddenly, you followed me on Instagram not too long ago and I'm like, oh no, do I talk about Rubicon on here? Am I gonna get taken out by Adult Swim executives or something for talking about it? Yeah. And then the official announcement.
Why was it listed online?
I don't know. Here, I'll send you the.
If I were to guess, it might have been a copyright thing that Adult Swim took out. Maybe?
Yeah, it was the Universal Media Identifier. Here, I'll send the link to it. I forgot. I think I saw a Reddit post where someone was like, "Oh yeah, the Harley Quinn show is getting a new season because it's on here." And I looked and I was like, "Oh, I wonder if Ballmasterz will get something." And I saw it and I was like, "Holy hell, this is insane."
It was funny because as far as I know, season 1 and 2, you know, it's not Rick and Morty huge, but it did okay. But what was really interesting that happened was, and I don't know how much you guys know about Adult Swim, but you know, Lazo was leaving, and then right around when he left, there was the whole AT&T thing, and so all this upper management had changed. So what happened was, like, you know, normally they tell you within a few months if your show's gonna get renewed or not, because you got to start looking for another job, you know, or try to make another show. And you know, I really wanted to, and actually this, God, I feel like in between season, wait, God, I'm so dumb. I think at the end of season 1 that happened. So there was this really big gap between 1 and 2. But then after 2 that happened, and then fucking COVID happened. Like, I think we started writing Rubicon, I'm not even joking. I think it was something crazy like 2018. Like we haven't been working constantly on it. It was like, it got greenlit, you know, we wrote it, then it was sitting around forever. Then it was like, the thing happened with Japan, but then there was like just a big pause because of COVID. And then there's just been so much waiting that when it finally came out, I mean, I think it was even done. I want to say it was done in December or January. Like, it was, and I think it was supposed to originally air in like May or something. And then, like, I remember when they were like, hey, it's going to air in February. I was like, oh my God, thank God. Like, because it's, you know, it's been so long. You think someone that saw it might have been in high school and now they're like 30. It's just kind of shitty, you know, it sort of sucks. And I don't know. It's just, so it was a long road to figure shit out, you know?
The one thing that's weird about the EIDR listing is it states that Rubicon was going to be an hour and 30 minutes, and I was like, what the hell? It's literally a movie?
I wish. That would be cool.
Dude, that would have been so rad.
Well, it's funny because I've been kind of, look, I'll be honest, I mean, you know, I'll be honest on here because, like, how do I say this? Look, I love Adult Swim. I love working for them. I'm loyal to them. But, you know, you don't know what's happening. This is business. It's not, you can say that you're, you know, whatever. But, like, I've just been trying to, I mean, I talked to Crab about this. Like, I've been just trying to hype it up because hopefully if it did well, we'll get another season. And, but I have been kind of, I guess, I'll just say it. Like, I've been taking liberties. Like, you know, I've been saying all the things about, you know, Ballmasterz Odyssey and the other one. But, like, those are my true thoughts. I don't know if they'll do it. But I'm just talking like, hey, this is the plan. Let's do it. Like, why not? You know? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because originally,
I'm still holding out hope that it happens.
I
hope.
I have good faith.
So. Like, I'd love another season, but I hope we could at least, like, look. I'd love 2 more specials and do a trilogy. I kind of wouldn't mind just that, but at least 1. I mean, I don't want to end it like this. You know, you want to go out with a bang. You don't want to. I hate these. It's like when you were saying, like, there's the cliffhanger. Like, is there really going to be another? It's such a
you don't want to go out like reboot.
Yeah.
Didn't Reboot get rebooted though? Didn't they have a new version?
It did, but it was like, it's crazy because it's essentially like, okay, the movies came out in 2001. It ends on a major cliffhanger in the 4th season, right? And then they rebooted it like a couple years ago, but by this point the company changed so much, and from what I understand, like, essentially what the reboot ends up being is it's kind of a shitty YTV Mighty Morphin Power Rangers live action show ripoff that really didn't have anything to do with the original aside from the name. So it doesn't really end up completing or fleshing out any storylines or really having any of the same characters.
And at the same time, like, insulting people who had been waiting that long to get a continuation.
Yeah.
Because from what I understand, what happened at that company is, like, they changed hands at some point in leadership, and the new kind of administration basically was like, okay, we're not doing this anymore, and they kind of purged all reboot materials. And so it kind of just ended up being a dead project. And so the name basically just got kind of used as collateral because I guess they had the IP lying around. And so the kind of the reboot show the new one ends up kind of not really being anything that the original was.
Yeah. And that's it. I remembered what I was going to say before. This happens a lot. When I was talking about being a rip-off artist and all this stuff, I was going to say, if you see Just Beyond, there's a ton of things in Ballmasterz that we sort of ripped off. Like in Just Beyond, like, we have the Cosmo Diary written in Just Beyond. They have this thing called, like, the Galactic Bible, and, like, you know, these monsters are showing up, and there's all these things that are just so cool. I mean, I just love that show. So a lot of it's a homage to that show if you ever watch it.
I completely
That's
forgot
cool.
about the Galactic Bible because like when I heard about the Cosmo Diary, I was like, that's got to be referencing something. But then I remember, I think on a live stream, you showed that episode of Just Beyond, and they talked about that, and I was like, wow, this is fucking awesome. I gotta.
Yeah, and Just Beyond, the music is really good. Like, it's really synthy. Like, it's like, where. It's like just, I don't know. It's just, I find it really fun.
I
The
should.
Japanese sci-fi is all over the place. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't look like it, but Space Cobra was a big influence for the show, with the backgrounds at least in the first couple seasons.
I remember there's another thing that you're talking about on that live stream. It was oh my god, holy shit. I can't remember the name. It was
show?
the same guy who made Interstellar
Leiji
5555. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, like,
Rest in peace.
That shit is
Express
so
or-
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has not been a great couple months for anime fans. We had a lot of huge people
yeah.
pass away. We had Leiji, we had Aniki, Ichiro Mizuki. You know, I'm sure you're familiar with him being, you know, the singer. Majin Go.
Yeah.
We had just recently we had the voice actor for he was Nappa, and then he was also Ryu in the original Mobile Suit Gundam, and he was Benkei in Getter Robo. He passed away last week, I think. Even just a couple days ago, as in my status on Discord, it says Takahiro Kimura, who was the character designer for my favorite anime, which is King of Braves Galgagar. He passed away too.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so it has been a rough couple months. Leiji Matsumoto's passing is huge though. Like that's just crazy to think about. That one is such an insanely kind of.
Oh, that's like, again, when I said that early morning stuff, I mean, Captain Harlock and Star Blazers and all that shit would be on, and I mean, Dee Dee's clearly a reference to that style, and
Absolutely.
and, it's one of my favorite I mean, the whole bridge of that ship is that, you know?
Oh
It's like,
yeah, I could totally see the Harlock.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally, you know.
Bingo, he's who's recording right now. He's not talking. He wanted to ask if the opening sequence of Rubicon was inspired by the Daikon 4 animation in any way.
Yes, totally.
Yeah, see, that was my first guess when I saw it. I was like, this is 100% with that song. Like, absolutely.
We tried to get the rights to Twilight, and we
Yeah.
almost got it, but I can't remember what they wanted to charge, and it was so expensive. But I'm kind of glad we didn't, because it was fun to write that song.
Dude, that
But
song
I'm
is
also-
great.
That song's
just
gonna
glad
get.
That song is
people-
awesome.
Well, I'm psyched people knew what it was, because, like, I even know a lot of anime fans, and, like, again, like, you know, I'm older, so I know it, but, like, a lot of people that I talked to, like, they didn't even know what that was. I was like, how do you not know this?
Well,
It's, like,
I had to show
craziest-
these guys because I remember we were watching something and it came up in conversation and I was like, oh yeah, you guys have never seen this, by the way, because at our local anime convention here we do our group like in Vancouver, my the Gunpla group that I'm part of, we have a room and we do panels and events, and one of the panels we do, I host this. I've done it at a couple conventions. We do a history of mecha anime, where we kind of talk about kind of mecha as a genre from its conception up to where it is now, and that's one of the big things we talk about because that Daikon 4 animation was fucking huge for its time. Like a lot of people who ended up becoming kind of industry icons, like Anno worked on that and stuff, right? Like,
Yeah, well, they started. Did they basically start Studio Gainax?
yeah,
I mean,
That's
they
what
were
I mean, like,
fans.
right,
It's
like,
insane.
Anno, yeah.
Like, yeah, it's like fucking crazy.
because that's what, like a lot of people. It's crazy now with how huge anime is. A lot of people have no idea how insanely big mecha was like in the 70s and 80s. Like it kind of built a lot of the foundation for what we have now, like with how huge Gundam got and Macross. Like, you know, do you remember Love like topping the Oricon charts and shit like that? Like it's just crazy. Kind of like I love the history of this stuff. It's really interesting to go back and look at production and read all these old interviews about like all this stuff. So
Are you guys-
it's just great to watch a show that had all of those
Were you guys
influences.
fans of do you know Max from like Fish Center and Jimo Seto or whatever it's called, like from Adult Swim?
I think I do.
He's like an anime expert, and I really love him. He's really funny. He's super creative and smart. And it was funny because when I met him, he was like, "Oh, I was worried you're gonna hate me." And I go, "Why?" And he goes, "Because he had sort of an anime parody show, but he worked for Adult Swim, so his thing was like kind of they let him make it, but it wasn't like, you know, I don't want to say it wasn't real because it is real, and I love the show, but it was like, you know, kind of done in the studio. But I was like, dude, in Japan, there's 1 million sports animes. I think if they had 1 million sports animes on Adult Swim, I'd be psyched. Like, no, I don't care. And we became really good friends, and he knows all these crazy facts and stuff. And I remember we were talking about how, like, kind of what you're saying, like, you know, robots and stuff kind of went out of fashion, but that used to be like all it was, or what was really big.
Well,
you know?
in the 80s is like, I think because it went through a couple upheavals, right? You get like the early scale with like the super robots with Mazinger, Getter, G, Kotetsu G, and all that stuff, right? And then Gundam kind of came along and changed everything by injecting the kind of the real robot, the political drama, and so the 80s was like the boom for mecha, right? And then end of 80s is kind of where like Ono and all these people who grew up watching Mazinger and Getter and Gundam kind of get into the industry, and you get stuff like amazing kind of super robot revival stuff like Gunbuster and Getter Robo, Giant Robo coming back, right? And then you get like Gao Gaigar and just tons of great 90s super robot anime. And then sorry.
No, go.
And then, you know, 2000s is kind of the last sort of big hurrah for the genre, because it was like, you know, you had Gurren Lagann, which is a huge one. Code Geass was another really big one. Gundam 00, and then it kind of hasn't really been as relevant since, like, that was kind of the last point it was like really a big deal, because it's just not in the mainstream eye anymore.
It's funny, like, and Giant Robo also has, like, you know, crazy choreographed fighting, like, of the, you know how there's all these characters are almost like superheroes, like they fly around and everything, like, it's so, I just think that show's amazing.
I'm assuming you've seen Getter Robo Armageddon, though, right? Like the 90s OVA?
I don't know, because you know what's weird? When I went to college, I kind of stopped watching anime for a while. Like, when I was in college, I kind of, like, stopped watching a little and kind of, like, was just really focused on things. And then, I don't know if I've seen it.
I will tell you this right now. That is probably the biggest recommendation I'm going to give you leaving this conversation, because if you love Giant Robo, you're going to love Armageddon. Like,
oh my god, okay, I'm super psyched, actually.
I'm a huge Getter Robo fan. It's my favorite manga of all time. I adore the manga. Actually, I think you'd probably like the manga too. It's very trippy. Like, it starts out kind of traditional super robot, but then just more kind of sci-fi crazy kind of stuff. The writer was a huge fan of, like, he loved a lot of, like, sci-fi and horror stuff. He's a huge Alien fan. He passed away, but he was a huge, like, Alien fan. So there's a lot of, like, Geiger-esque, like biomechanical stuff in it later on. And then there's, like, H.G. Wells' 2001: A Space. It just gets really crazy. But yeah, I think you can tell you like the more absurdist kind of parts of anime, like, because you like a lot of older stuff, and that's what a lot of those older animes were. There's a lot of absurdism, and I love that shit.
Yeah, I mean, when, you know, you got to remember, like, when I got into it, again, there was no internet, so, how do I say this? I'm not saying it doesn't seem unique and weird now, but it just seems so foreign and exotic and just like, what is this? Like, you know, you were just like, what is this? Like, wow, it's so cool.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
I remember,
for sure.
Like, I collected comics, but I remember being like, I mean, I really remember thinking this, like, what, you know, in like a Marvel comic, if there was a shot of the city, it would be kind of like drawn all shitty, or like just boxes, but then when it was like anime, you'd be like, why does this look real? Like, what the fuck?
Like, you watch Akira or something, you're like, look how, or Ghost in the Shell or Pat, you're like, look how much fucking detail the city has. Like,
I think the closest thing comic books have to that is like Alex Ross comics.
Yeah. Well, I used to like, you know, what I used to like
him.
I like a lot of stuff. Oh, what's this guy's name? Jeff Darrow. Do you know this guy?
I do know the name.
But it's like really detailed. Like, there's a million characters at once.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that thing? Like, is it Mullet Cop or something on the Instagram?
Mullet Cop.
I feel like that guy must have been influenced by this guy, because, in you know, not in a bad way, in an okay way. Oh, and I loved Mobius. I always loved him, also.
Mm-hmm. Mullet Cop. Hold on, let's see this. Oh, this is cool. Oh, I can see what you mean about having, like, kind of a lot of detail on the background characters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It kind of touches on that same sort of, like, I think that same sort of appeal that something like Star Wars has, where it's like you look in the background of a shot, you see all these weird costumes and aliens and shit. Like,
Did you guys like you know what I really liked recently, like about a year or so ago, was like that anime with that like little king.
Oh, Ranking of Kings! Oh my goodness!
I thought that was really good.
Dude, I
thought
loved
that was kind
that
of amazing,
show.
actually.
I watched it. I just finished it recently. I loved it.
Yeah, it was good.
So good. Yeah, it was so. It's very refreshing because it's just like it's a shonen that's kind of not doing the thing that all the other shonens are doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's not really focused on having like these big like beefcakes with really broken powers. It's more about like the character and his journey and his relationship with his friend Kage, and it's kind of more about the heart. Then the fights are really cool as well. Like he has they put so much thought into his fighting style and all that shit, right?
Well, there's so much heart, and it like they have these low POV angles like from his point of view, and then also like again it looked like this beautiful storybook, but then when it was an action scene, it was like hardcore.
It almost didn't feel like watching a lot of anime, if that makes any sense. It felt like it was kind of its own beast in a lot of ways, but it was still
really
had
fresh.
a lot of very fresh, like one of the most fresh anime I've watched in a long time. I loved it.
I feel like for me that, and again I love I don't know, I don't get sick of JoJo. I just love it.
JoJo's
and the other one though is a comic. Have you seen Rooster Fighter?
Rooster Fighter? No, I've never heard that name before.
Dude, this
I'm gonna
thing's
Google this
fucking
up.
nuts. Check this out. It's like, it's drawn like hyper realistic, and it's a rooster, and it just starts. I don't even know why.
Oh no, I
rooster
saw this panel. Hold on, this is.
I remember
sick.
you sent me like, I think you sent it to me on Instagram, and I was like, oh, this rocks.
Yeah,
and it's so good.
Do you know Gon, like the dinosaur?
No, what's that?
Gon is
G-A-N?
this little manga about this little dinosaur guy, and he's like this little cute like cartoon dinosaur, but it's drawn in like a hyper realistic art style with like intense shading and detail, and it's literally like the story's not like cute or anything. It's just like this dumb little cartoon dinosaur. But then like in the manga and shit, like he's just kicking ass and like fighting bears and shit, and it's like there's no dialogue.
Also the panel of it.
Yeah. It's so funny because you just see him next to all of these. It's just like this dumb little cartoon dinosaur.
Seen it. Yeah, I've seen this. Yeah.
Like here, this is a great bit. Hold on, look at this one. It's so good. Yeah, like I love that kind of shit where it's just like intensely over like even Ranking of Kings gets that in kind of near the end in the final fight because it's like these character designs are so like kind of round and soft and nice feeling, right? They're not trying to be like super angular or muscular or detailed or anything, but then like the fights start rolling about and it's like holy shit, this is visually spectacular.
Well, the rooster one too, like, I mean, I don't want to get crass, but I remember when I read the first issue, it's like he's sort of like some action star. Like there's this scene where he's like having sex with a chicken, and then he just leaves. It's really weird. It's bizarre.
It's awesome.
Oh yeah, I just saw that. I just saw that just now.
Yeah, you're
I'm
like,
looking at it right now. It's
like,
awesome.
Yeah, it's really weird. Yeah.
This is one of like a guy, like a giant guy who's like a head with like oni horns and shit, and then he's got like arms coming out of his ears, and he's got like spider legs that are fingers.
And I've never finished it, but like they don't really ever explain why these demons are on Earth. And the weird thing is, he always meets these people that have a weird history. Like he'll meet an old man who's like nice to him, but it'll be like he's sentimental because like his dead wife liked chickens or something, or like it'll be like these kids that treat him like shit, and later he like gets revenge. It's so bizarre but amazing. I love it. I love
surrealism, like especially like when it's done in anime, because it's a lot of it. There's a lot of anime that's kind of more grounded in like I keep saying, like again, shonen's huge right now. Like shonen's kind of where it's all about like the kind of superhero almost sort of thing. But then it's like what I loved so much about superhero comics growing up, I realized like now is like I loved the surrealism and the absurdism of it. Like I love just seeing like crazy landscapes filled with color and shit like that, and just kind of ridiculous shit.
Well, it's funny. Like I was a big fan too of like. Do you guys know? I know it's a kid's show, but it's like Maruko-chan.
Yes.
Like
I
that
think
show
I do.
blows my mind, and the manga too, because it's like, first of all, the art style is amazing. It's like it almost looks like you're looking. It's kind of like Atari. Like sometimes it looks like a top view, but the characters are drawn like on a side view, and it's almost folk art way or something, which I just think is so awesome. But like, it's like she's a kid and she kind of makes mistakes and fucks up, and it's like some sanitized Disney cartoon where it's like, hey, you're special and all this bullshit. But it's like she's like does bad things and cries and feels guilty and is ashamed, and it's, to me, it's so just more real, and it's just awesome. And I really liked that show a lot. I mean, I would laugh at it, but it would have heart. I don't know. There's something about it was special, I thought.
Yeah, I've never actually seen it.
It's really, I mean, I really like it. I think it's a kid's show, but to me, I'm like, I mean, I can watch it. I don't know.
Well, that's the interesting thing about anime is, like, we don't really think about it here, but it's like a lot of this stuff is, like, a lot of them are kids shows.
Yeah, I mean, Shin-chan's looking up his mom's skirt. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. A lot of them are kids shows, but it's just like, even with like all the big popular, like Dragon Ball, like that's a kids show. Like it's just that the way we think about it here is a lot different. Of like, oh, what is a kids show? But in Japan, they're like, they don't care. Like, just have cool fights and fucking like shit like that, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the mindset that Reboot went off, I feel.
Yeah, that's like kind of the closest thing we have to that. Where it's like, oh, it's a kid's show, but it doesn't really, it's not limited by that aspect, right? Like even the crazy thing like the Gundam, original Gundam was like, oh, it was just like, it was, you know, it was supposed to be a kid's show because that's kind of the slot I got stuck with, but like the story wasn't really made for kids because it's like they're talking about like politics, imperialism, and all this shit, right? But it's like the show got stiffed in a Saturday morning time slot, so it ended up flopping originally because all the kids who were watching that time slot couldn't follow it.
I mean, wasn't it novels or something?
No. Originally Gundam was an anime. It got novelized.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So the whole thing with Gundam was that it got stiffed into because Tomino and Yasuhiko Yasuhiko worked on Battleship Yamato, and then Tomino had worked on. What the hell is that? It's an older Super Robot anime. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But the whole thing is they were working on it at Sunrise, and then because back then it was very hand in hand with marketing. So it's like, oh, you're gonna make a show about a robot, you have to be able to sell a toy to kids. And so a lot of the designs that got tacked onto the show were there because of the network mandating, like, oh, you have to make toys and sell them. And so the network was like, oh, this is going to be a kids show, and so they put it in that Saturday morning slot. And because the original Gundam is like, it's a lot of, there's a lot of crazy subject matter in there it's very political, and there's a lot of like, there's gritty war drama and stuff like that in there. So it didn't do well because all of the kids who would be watching TV at that point were like, what the fuck is this? Like, and then it was only after the show reached like syndication that it kind of reached the demographics, like older teenagers and young adults and people in their 20s that it was kind of supposed to reach, that it turned into this big thing. And then they got the compilation movies in the theaters, and that's where it exploded.
Huh. I mean, it is interesting how these things happen.
Yeah, that's what I mean, though. Is like that's why the process of it interests me so much, because so much of it is tied into the business world of it. But like then you kind of see how the artistry adapts and evolves to accommodate that.
Well, it's funny. There's a funny story about SpongeBob. Like, everyone acts like this was this like hit out of the gates, and it wasn't. Apparently, from what I've heard, someone told me this. I mean, I think it's true. I don't know. But SpongeBob, they weren't sure if they're going to renew it after, I guess, the first season. And with these kid shows, sometimes they don't make all that merchandise until it's been on a season or two. Because say they make all this merch and the show's a bomb, it's stuck in a warehouse. They lose all this money. So they were thinking about maybe not, greenlighting it again. And someone was in Asia or China, and I guess there was all this bootleg SpongeBob shit just because it was so cute,
Yeah.
And they were like, oh my god, this thing's like a, it's going to be a gold mine with this merch, and that's why they decided to. I don't know if the story's true, but someone told me that. I believe them.
I could believe it. I could see
that. That sounds totally true. That's like how Family Guy got picked back up because of
Adult Swim.
Yeah, remember?
And Adult Swim and like bootleg DVDs, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's insane how it's like something that could be look even like with Gundam, it's insane because you look at like how Gundam became a titan, like it started an entire industry with the model kits and shit. Like it almost didn't happen. Like they had to fight tooth and claw to get that show to where it was, and it flopped initially.
I mean, it's an interesting thing because I talk about this a lot with my other friends who make stuff, and it's like, the networks always want to hit, and these executives sometimes, the last 5 years or however long it's been, everyone's like, they want the next Rick and Morty, they want the next Rick and Morty. Anything, when I think of every animated show that's like a mega hit from, Beavis and Butthead, Family Guy, South Park, Rick and Morty, Simpsons even. All these shows, right? When they came out, they were not big and they were met with resistance. I mean, when Simpsons came out, people forget when Simpsons came out, everyone's like, they're celebrating underachievers. Like, they thought Simpsons was kind of trashy. Like, and then it got, like, these things are always surprising. It's like Rick and Morty. It's like, Adult Swim didn't green like that and know it was going to be a huge hit. It's always a surprise. So when these places are saying they want the next this, what they ought to do is it's like playing the stock market. Like, when you have a portfolio, you diversify and you're like, look, might lose on a couple of these, but I might win on a couple of these. Like, that's why Adult Swim was so great. They made all these weird shows and they weren't all mega hits, but that's how you're going to get one. And that's how they got Rick and Morty. And so now that this big corporation's in charge and they're kind of being cautious with everything, I think it's a big mistake, because I think that you got to kind of take a chance, because you really, they're not going to admit it, but like, they don't really know. No one knows. No, if they knew, they'd be making only hits.
I think that's another crazy thing about like Simpsons and Rick and Morty, etc. It's like it starts out when Simpsons was conceived, like you said, like it wasn't well received because it was counterculture.
Yeah, and it was different, and it was kind of probably turned people off. They were like,
something like that. It takes it's essentially, it was counterculture that became pop culture. Like that's kind of how it went for Simpsons, and how it went for
Same
like
with
South Park,
Beavis and
Rick and Morty,
Butthead.
Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, and
it was all kind of initially perceived as trashy, right? Like, and weird. It was like, why are you joking about this stuff on TV? Why are you?
Well, and it's funny because, like, I'm no genius, but I'm like, if you're the executive, don't you fucking research and understand that? I mean, come on. Because I think the bad part is a lot of them probably don't even fucking watch cartoons. They probably don't love this stuff. And if they did, they'd know. And it's a shame.
That's another
I think that's something from like an outsider view, I guess, that is why I loved Adult Swim so much, is because they would take risks on things. That's and that's how we got like so much good shit.
I think that's when Adult Swim is at its best, is when they're just like, oh, let's just throw shit at the wall.
And I don't think there's one Adult Swim show. Now, I'm not saying I watch everything all the time, but I don't think there's one show I don't like on there, because they're all, they're kind of. It's amazing the weird stuff they make. It's very inspiring, and
it's nice to at least like have the like you said, diversify the portfolio.
Yeah, I would think that would just be kind of a logical approach, what do you call it, like a law of numbers kind of thing.
Yeah, especially when that's your demographic, right? Like that's ultimately kind of what people, I think, who watch a network like that want to see, is they want to see, something they haven't seen before.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of that, Lazo's gone. I think he was a big part of that. I just think now it's kind of, look, it's not bad. Are they making, look, I'm a huge Aqua Teen fan, and I saw the movie, and are they making new Aqua Teens? Am I crazy?
They got like 6 new episodes they're making soon.
It got revived for like 1 or 2 seasons, I think.
I thought it was like 6 episodes.
I won't lie, I'm pretty pumped about that.
I hope that's
good. But here's another thing. You're all in your 20s. Now, I don't know if you guys are niche or what, but this is an interesting conversation. I had this talk with some friends. I was like, would young people like the stuff that I'm thinking I like, or do you think, because you could argue it's timeless or that, but like, or would it seem old-fashioned? Because like, what about like a show like Smiling Friends? Like, do you guys like Smiling Friends?
Yeah. Well, so I think Smiling Friends is a unique case because you're very right in the sense that, like, oh yeah, it appeals to a very Gen Z sensibility, because it's like you kind of have to sort of acknowledge it's like, oh yeah, there's generational differences.
Yeah, and I always wonder about, I actually love having these conversations where I'm like, it's like when you were asking me my favorite stuff, part of the reason I think some of the stuff's my favorite stuff is I'm nostalgic because it's like the first stuff I loved.
Everyone is. Like,
and I don't know if that means it's the best, but it makes it my favorite. And it's like, like those guys that make Smiling Friends, they're kind of YouTube guys.
Yeah,
and
they're internet
people your generation probably grew up watching YouTube since they were like I grew up watching anime on a TV. You probably grew up watching YouTube, so you probably feel a kinship to this kind of aesthetic, or I don't know. Maybe.
No, that's a huge part of it. It's undeniable, because it's just like you can't kind of talk about people from different generations, they're just gonna have different sensibilities because it's just the way it is. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's just like that's just kind of how it is. And it's like, well, even with me, like I'm an outlier in that case because for someone my age to know as much as I do about like fucking Gundam and shit is not really heard of. It's a very niche thing. Like for like young people my age who are watching anime, they're all watching like Attack on Titan or Dragon Ball,
right?
Like or One Piece, you know, like
And I mean, I fucking love Attack on Titan, but like, but yeah, it's like it's interesting. You know, I don't know. You know, it's like someone who likes, look, I like old movies or classic movies. I'm sure, you know, you're searching out these things like, God, I'm trying to think of weird animes to ask you about. Because do you know 5-Star Stories?
Oh my God, yes.
Because did you see in Rubicon, like that gold thing is basically Knight of Gold?
The Knight of Gold. Dude, my dream, I want to build that Knight of Gold kit so bad, but I'm so scared because you have to paint it and it's like, there's a specific way to build those designs, and it's not like the same as a Gundam. It's very different.
Do they? What do you mean? Like they make them extra hard or something?
It kind of it's hard to explain, but it's like when you actually kind of get into modeling and you learn more about mecha and specifically like the design faculties of like different aesthetics. Like, oh, Gundam is its own thing because Bandai kind of has the monopoly on it, and Gunpla is kind of its own beast as far as model kits go, because like for a long time now, Gundam model kits are basically kind of like putting one together. It's kind of like it's essentially like getting a really nice quality action figure that you kind of spend a couple hours snapping together. The plastic comes colored, you know, and all that, but it's like a Gundam's design. The Gundam has its own aesthetic. It may branch off from that in certain ways, but kind of Gundam always stays within its own sort of range compared to something like Macross, which is more influenced by like aircraft, right? So when you're building Macross stuff, there's a different sensibility you need to take to how to paint it because things like scale and detail get considered into it. And 5-Star Stories is kind of no different because it's like Nagano was a fashion designer, right? So those designs are really, really like flamboyant.
I know. It's like I love the look of that fucking the show and the costumes and the character. It's so wild but it's funny. It's a series that I don't really know much about it, and a lot of people don't know about it. It's kind of mysterious.
You want to know the funny thing about it?
What?
The whole story behind it is essentially like Mamoru Nagano, the guy who made it. He worked on Gundam originally. He worked on Zeta Gundam with Tomino.
Oh.
And he designed the Hyakushiki and the Kubili.
That makes sense because they kind of have that wild look. Like
and and so this is the crazy thing, right? Is at the time because it was so the model kit sales were so and the animation, right? It was all intertwined because Gundam had kind of built its empire on top of the model kits. So they were like when they designed the suits in the show, they were considering that. So when Nagano pitched the Rick Diaz and the Kubili and the Hyakushiki initially, he got met with so much resistance that they had to be scaled down. So it's harder for his stuff, but you can look at like the Bound Dog is another. It's crazy you say
this because Kubili, I was like, these don't feel like a normal Gundam. They feel alien.
And they had to be toned down from what they were even, right? Like the Kubili was a bitch to turn into a model kit at the time.
Wow, that's super interesting.
And same thing to anime. So he also worked with Tomino on another show that's called Heavy Metal Elgime, which is actually a really cool show.
Yeah, totally know it.
And so again, like because he was working with Sunrise at the time, he met a lot of resistance on the designs, but the designs in that show are much closer to 5-Star Stories because like they still had to kind of be slimmed down to fit a little bit more of that Gundam aesthetic, so they would be easier to translate into the show and into the models, but it wasn't what he always wanted to do. So 5-Star Stories is essentially him taking what like it was his original vision for those designs. Like the Knight of Gold is essentially the Hyakushiki, the N-Gauge is the Elgime. The Og and the Batch and the Ashura Temple, those are all pre-existing designs from Elgime, but if you look at them in 5-Star Stories comparatively, they're way more like exotic. It's crazy.
Okay, a couple questions. One, who do you ever talk about this with?
I have that was the other thing I was gonna say when we were talking about generational, like me being an old school mecha fan. A lot of my friends that I talk about this are considerably older than me. Like I have a lot of friends who are in like their 30s, 40s, some even in like 50s. Like I'm the youngest of our group. I'm actually the outlier.
And I didn't know that guy was a fashion designer. But like I always was like thinking like this guy's got to be into fashion because it's so cool and like. seems like the real deal, but like the guy was a fashion designer.
Yeah, he worked in fashion. I think Okawara, the original Gundam designer, did some fashion stuff as well too.
Oh wow, that's nuts.
But yeah, no, Nagano was that was his whole thing. Is he was mecha meets fashion. That's why the characters in 5-star stories look so crazy too, like with their outfits and shit, because he designed that all. He did that all. And I haven't actually read the manga because everyone I talked to was like, oh, the story's bad, you look at it for the art. So I've seen a lot of the art.
It's weird. It's one of those ones where like I have a bunch of physical copies, and there's a movie that kind of didn't make sense when I saw it, but maybe it's like a shitty... Oh, another thing, remember you were talking about when they renamed these movies? Did you ever see, when I was a kid, I would never say it right, Nausicaa, whatever.
Oh, Nausicaa?
Yeah, Nausicaa used to always be called... The youngest one was called something like Warriors of the Wind.
Yeah.
And it would have this like thing with like shit that's not even in the movie on the cover. And you're like, what the fuck is
that?
No,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
But I remember like, I was like, that's not really the movie.
Yeah, we have a so we have our group has like at my like friend / he kind of mentored me on a lot of this stuff. He's a very influential Gunpla builder, but at his place he has a library with a bunch of like reading material and art books and guides on like mecha design and like just art books from all of these various mecha designers and anime artists, and he has like Sid Mead's art book and stuff like that. And he has like a ton of resources for building. Like he has it's a very important book. It's called the Scratch Build Manual. It's like if you're trying to get into Gundam and you're trying to learn how to make, build stuff from scratch and make like functioning mechanisms and stuff like that. So I learned a lot from just the community in general, as well as kind of just digging on my own time. Because a lot of these resources, like I said, because it's a different thing with like, One Piece, Attack on Titan, because those are so popular. So in the West, people are naturally, they want to know more about them. But with something like that, you really have to know your stuff to know where to find the kind of information you want to know, right?
Well, and that's kind of like, there's a certain pleasure about it because it's exciting. It's like, again, like...
There's a sense of discovery.
Like when I used to go to like a record store, and I felt like a nerd, and then you see like, cool poster, the art, and you're like, I don't even know what this band sounds like, but I want to buy it because there's cool ass fucking art or something. And, with the mangas, like sometimes you get something and be disappointed, but sometimes you be like, oh my god, this is amazing. And yeah, discovery is the right word. It was
I'm in the exact same boat because sometimes I'll just straight up I'll be at the hobby store and I'll see an old kit and I'll be like, I've never seen this before, but it looks cool, and I'll buy it, and then I'll go home and I'll research it and I'll be like, oh, this seems really cool, I'm gonna watch this.
Yeah. I remember I never loved this anime, but there was cool stuff about it. But Venus Wars, like, they had really cool like tanks and weird vehicles.
Oh yeah.
But again, it wasn't. I couldn't even tell you the characters. It wasn't memorable for me.
Yeah. Sometimes ultimately, it's about the visuals more so. Like sometimes it's just like, oh, this guy has all these really cool. That's what 5-star stories is. It's like, oh, he just had a bunch of really cool designs in his head, and he wanted to get them out there.
Yeah, angel egg.
Yeah, a lot of.
And I don't know if you caught it, but we called the Titanic ship the Psycho Joker, and that was a 5-star reference.
Oh, I didn't catch. I must have missed that. That's crazy.
I don't even know if they say it.
It wasn't in the special.
Again, what's that?
Yeah, no, it wasn't in the special. They didn't mention the name.
So that spaceship is called the Psycho Joker.
That's so cool.
In a bunch of the concept art, like, we wanted it to be like, it didn't look threatening, and it would transform into this really threatening form. But again, we had all these ideas, just didn't have time. I mean, we didn't have time. 22 minutes isn't that long, and so many characters and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what names, because the idea of the names being cool was really, it's fun for me. I think, again, it's like you're saying, like these model kits, I'm always like, what's this one called? It's like cool,
Yeah, it's part of the fun.
Yeah.
The new show's done a surprisingly good job of kind of reinvigorating that feel in it, because every time they drop the new kit or the new suit, I'm like, oh my god, this is so cool. I want to build this and see what it's like.
Wait, the new what?
The new Gundam that's airing right now.
What is it called?
The Witch from Mercury. Season 2 is coming out in about a month.
Wow.
So far it's very good.
I used to think I was a Gundam expert. I don't know anything about the new stuff. Like, I think, God, the last new one I saw was either Thunderbolt or The Origin, and those are pretty old, right?
That Thunderbolt was like 2015. Did you watch Iron Blood Orphans? Because I think that might have been around the same time.
Yeah, I started that one, and I never finished it. I liked it, but I kind of got bored. I don't know.
That was my first Gundam, and it's kind of like I watched it when it aired, so I kind of got hit or miss for a lot of people because it's one of the most like different, I'd say, overall.
Yeah,
it's very different because it's like most Gundam shows is like when you have the alternate universe reboot ones, like, you know, Wing and 00 and Seed. They're like, oh, we're kind of gonna retell the original Gundam story in a new sort of format or with a new twist that makes it kind of more digestible for modern viewers, right? Like,
yeah.
But IBO is a lot different because they're like, oh, instead of, you know, telling the original story of Earth versus like Space Noids and, you know, all that kind of jazz, we're gonna turn the dial a little bit from a war story into a Yakuza story, and we're gonna have like samurai elements in there, and it's just a very different take on Gundam.
God, I'm trying to think. Is Wing? What's the one where there's like 5 Gundams and they're kind of all different? Like there's like a sniper one.
That's 00. Wing and 00 kind of are the same thing in that regard, where they're both like in Wing there's 5 of them, in 00 there's 4. But in Wing, it's like the same thing, where it's like, oh, each suit is kind of like there's 4 main characters, 5 main characters in Wing, and they're on a mission to dismantle the government. 00 is kind of the same premise, although the more so they're like a unit. One of them is the XCAs, the close quarters, and there's the Curiosities, like the mobility.
One of those I started and I kind of liked it, and I liked how are they fighting Earth? I can't remember, but the others. The mecha from the opposing side, again, looked very alien, which I just thought was cool how it looked different.
Oh, it's probably 00 then, because they bust out some really whack designs in that one.
Yeah, but I didn't finish that either. I mean, I kind of like the classic ones, but I loved Thunderbolt, and I loved Origin.
Yeah, both of those are really good.
It's weird how they kind of made Amuro like a little whiny guy.
Well, the Origin is basically like... The Origin's actually a manga. It was a manga first. It's Yasuhiko who was one of the creators. He wasn't like... Tomino is the main creator of Gundam. Yasuhiko was the character designer, and he also contributed a lot of the art and the story. Mm-hmm. It's basically his kind of take on the original Gundam, and so it actually goes through the whole story, but the OVAs only go up to kind of where the original like anime starts, like in the original 0079. So they actually cover... The OVAs kind of do more of the backstory, but it's actually the manga's a full-on retelling. Like, it's a completely new take on the original Gundam. They actually did a new movie last year, Kukuru's Doan's Island, which is like a kind of one-off story based on an episode of the original show. But it's just kind of this. They fleshed it out into a whole movie, but it's just a one-off story about kind of Amuro meeting this Zeon soldier, and it's really good.
Wait, what's it called?
Kukuru's Doan's Island.
And then they had that Hathaway one too, right?
Yeah, that's really good. That's based on a novel that Tomino wrote back in like the 90s. That they were like, for a long time they were like, oh, this is never gonna get made into a show because it's too dark.
That one, God, it looked crazy. The shots,
it's ridiculous.
It was pretty high quality,
super high budget. Yeah, I was blown away by it. I can't wait for the next 2. They're gonna do 3 movies.
Oh, they are? Wow.
Yeah. Because that's the novel's already, you know, Tomino wrote the novel back in like 90 something, and they for a long time they just thought like, oh, this is never going to get adapted because Hathaway is not a traditional Gundam protagonist in the sense that he is a literal terrorist. Like, he's not a good person. He's not even like a Gundam Wing, like, because technically in like Wing and 00, like, those protagonists are terrorists too, but they're kind of like, you know, they're a little bit more over the top. They're not like Hathaway is quite literally a terrorist. Like, in the movie, you literally see a bit of him like staging an attack to blow up a building full of like Federation officials, right? Like,
I mean, it's funny because, you know, and I think you see this in a lot of things now. It's always like, how do we tell something from a, you know, either a different point of view or, you know, from a different side. So it's like, you know, maybe the terrorists aren't the bad guys and all that, but it definitely was. How do I say this? The emphasis didn't seem like it was on the mecha and stuff. It was almost like a spy thing.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what it was written as too. It's a spy thriller that takes place within the Universal Century, and it expands on a lot of ideas that were because that's the big thing. There's this really old book from I think it's in '93, and it was the Char's Counterattack fan club interviews, and it was basically like a bunch of interviews with like Tomino and I know Ano was big then because he was a huge fan of Char's Counterattack.
You were the most deep cut Gundam person I've ever talked to. It's kind of amazing.
Thank you. And so it's like the collection of interviews, and there's a big thing is like, because a lot of people love Char's Counterattack, right? They love it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
one of my
great
favorites.
movie. It's a great movie, and it's a conclusion. Tomino actually regrets it in a lot of ways because he's like, oh, I kind of realize now, like, I'm not very good at doing movies because he's like, the pacing in this movie is very like all over the place, and also that just in general the story he wanted to tell, he didn't get to tell nearly as much of it, because it's kind of the big thing about the movie. If you go from Zeta to that, like it jumps ahead. Like there's a lot of it is just not explained, and you never find out like, oh, why is Char evil? It's just sort of explained within his character. It's not explained like from a story perspective.
I mean, and Zeta and Double Zeta, they were series, so like they're so long, like there's so much development, so much. It's interesting. God.
But yeah, like that's a crazy thing to me. It's like that the movie's heralded as like a magnum opus by so many people, but but Tomino's just like, yeah, I could have done better.
Well, you know what's funny about that movie, and again back to the nostalgia point, is that was the first Gundam I ever saw. Mm-hmm. So, and you know how it's kind of dramatic, like it's like even the music, it's like dun-dun-dun-dun. It's like very like,
oh, the score is amazing. The score is awesome.
Yeah, I remember being like, what is this? And it was like, I had seen Robotech and I'd seen other stuff, but this felt, and dude, I'm telling you, I watched this movie in total Japanese, no subtitle. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I was always guessing, but I couldn't stop watching it because I was like, you can kind of tell, like, these guys are adversaries. This girl, something's weird, and
you can feel you can feel the emotion in that movie. Like it's very it's very dramatic.
Yeah, and you know what? Want to hear a funny story? So it's on Netflix now, and you can watch it subtitled. And there's a weird part of me. I've never watched it and known the story in the subtitles, and I don't want to. I think it'll ruin it.
That's crazy. I honestly, to me, that's kind of crazy going back, because like I love Char's Counterattack as being kind of this conclusion to this like three series long character arcs of Amuro and Char respectively.
Yeah.
And
I mean, don't get me wrong, I've read outlines and stuff, but I've never really,
But it's like, it's just crazy to imagine like watching that movie, not even without like the prior knowledge, but just without the story of the movie, like being fully like digested.
But dude, this was shit too. Like you know how like, they're new types, and like how the new type weapons had those bit things that like they can control with their mind. Like, you're watching this animation, I just remember like, this is, again, you got to remember, this is before say computer animated, Star Wars fucking prequels weren't even out yet. Like it was like, this shit was like wild.
That would have been mind blowing to see back then. Yeah, like that movie is gorgeous. It's so
great. It's great.
It's a great movie. It's one of my favorite movies.
It's so nuts.
We're running at 1 hour and 45. How is everybody feeling?
I'm fine.
Good.
All right. I had something I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
You guys are so silent. You got to talk.
Yeah, I've been stealing the thunder here. I feel bad. I'm gonna pass the torch off a little bit.
Because you guys were talking about anime, and it kind of reminded me of something. Because we were talking about like how we discovered your shows and that earlier. Mm-hmm. And the way that I discovered Ballmasterz was that me and Crab kind of bonded over like mutually both having like this show that we just hyper fixate on and like love so much that we think like ended too soon or whatever, or it was more like it was on hiatus and he just heard nothing about it. Like, I love Dorohedoro. You ever heard about that? It's a Netflix.
Sure.
It was a Netflix anime, and it only got one season.
Is that the one with like the lizard guy?
Yes.
Yeah, that was. I didn't finish it, but it was great.
It only got one season back in 2020, and it did like super well. And then it was like, is this gonna get another season? And it's just been dead silent since then.
Netflix is kind of fucked up, because I heard like a lot of things on Netflix won't even get. They never want to go past a second or third season. It's like Mindhunter had a similar thing, because they don't want to pay the money.
Yeah, like the line to get your show renewed at Netflix is kind of insane. Like, The Sandman was like the #1 streamed show like in the world for like a month straight, and it still didn't get renewed until like another month later.
It's so
and
weird.
It only got renewed for one more season.
Yeah, I got no idea what the fuck is going on over there at Netflix. They'll greenlight the weirdest shit and then just like write off. They'll have a hit on their hands and they'll just write it off. It's just I can't understand the process, especially when it comes to anything animated.
Well, listen, I'll tell you this. This is what people don't want to understand. It's what they don't want to understand. But like, I don't even understand it. But like, when you do this, you know, we're fans and we love it. Mm-hmm. But you know. Even I forget, you know, it's a business. If this stuff loses money, they don't want to do it. And the thing that's completely fucking stupid about Netflix and all these streaming things, and I'm no genius, but it's like, I don't get how this stuff's sustainable, because they need to keep churning out content, but unless they have commercials or raise the price, how are they ever showing a profit or making money? Because at some point, you know, whoever's going to get their subscription to Netflix, it's finite. Like, it's not like they're going to double subscription rates. Pretty much everyone has Netflix, so they share it. So it's like, either don't let people share it or whatever, but they're going to have to go back to normal TV because commercials pay for fucking television. It's just a fact. Like, when you watch shows on TV, if the ratings are good, they charge more for the commercials, for the premium time. So this idea that streaming's the future and all this, yeah, sure, it's great, but like, what's paying for it? And the fact that with streaming, I would argue, and I might be wrong, that with streaming, you consume more and more quickly. So they have to keep churning this stuff out. And it just seems like nobody really thought about, like, hey, how are we going to, like, sustain this? And what's interesting about Netflix is, like, it's like with animation, like, it's like you said before, that so these shows are commercials for models. It's true. Like, all the shit, you know, I love He-Man, but He-Man's a commercial for toys. I mean, they made the thing up while they're making the toys. It's a fact. And, like, you know, Disney sells tons of merch. Like, I don't know why they didn't have a merch department, or they weren't trying to have kid shows and sell product, because that would. What do you think Nickelodeon is? They bought, you know, they got Ninja Turtles, they got whatever they have, and I just think it's weird how, you know, they'll never talk about the reality of this shit in an interview, but it's reality. And
it's
they'll talk about all the bullshit. It's like, it's like, just be real about it. Like, because look, we all want to be entertained and we want cool stuff. And when we like something, we kind of want to buy shit of it. Like, it's like you were saying about these custom things. I wrote down this custom things, like, I want to kind of make a Ballmaster model. Like, you know, they'll never make merch, and I get it, it's not a kid's show, but, you know, you wonder, why didn't Netflix have a, for any kid's show they made, why didn't they have, were they not trying to make a SpongeBob? I mean,
like, Dora has basically zero merch here.
Yeah.
Like, you can't find anything.
I'm just saying.
And you know what everybody has merch of? Agritsuko or whatever.
Yeah, fucking My Hero, like Hunter.
And that Agritsuko, the company, has ties to not Bandai. Is it Bandai? It's the one that makes all the toys and stuff.
It's Bandai.
Yeah, and it's like, and that show, I mean, that show's pretty popular with Westerners.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, Ballmasterz, they need to get like model kits for like the characters and shit, because like I've thought of this for a while. When I first saw Titanus' mech, I was like, dude, that needs to be a model kit. That would look so sick on my shelf.
Even if not that, I would like kill for like Kid Robot Ballmasterz figures or something.
Exactly.
I would actually I would love. I think I talked to Crab and Ham about this at some point, like potentially like doing a build of maybe like the Ballmaster and then like Titanus' mech. But kind of as like a redesign, maybe in like a more like a 90s Obari. Well, because the big thing, my style, like the way I build, I lean more into like Okawara. Like he's the original Gundam designer. Like with his, he did Wing and G and all that stuff. I kind of lean more into his style, so I'd love to do something where it's kind of like reimagine sort of, you know, like the Ballmaster or Titanus with kind of those sort of proportions and that sort of style to it. Like, I think it'd be sick.
Is there an official name for like the new Ballmaster formation? Like, I know it's like it's like a power up, right? I mean, obviously, but
yeah, there's no real name. It's funny because like they redesigned everything, but I was like, okay, they're in space, he should look different. But then it's funny because then when we did the song and we were thinking about it, and they did that design that kind of looks like Mega Man, I was like, oh shit, this is really funny too. And, you know, there's an episode in like season 2 where there's a flashback, you know, when they're getting that plant. Yeah. Where it kind of looks very anime like that. But I don't know. I just thought there should be like a heavy duty one in space. Look again. We scratched the surface. Like I wanted to have all this new shit because when they go to that Quasar's room and stuff, the idea is like if the show we get another season, like he's gonna have tons of things he's been working on for
everyone's
everybody.
gonna get a power up.
Like everyone will have their own
rad.
thing. Like we were joking that like Leto and Dee Dee will have this one vehicle they're in together, and like Bob and Lulu will have shit, Flip will have shit. Like it will be because they're gonna have to fight bigger enemies and stuff, and it'll just be cool anime thing of like here's my new thing. It'll just be.
Dude, I would
ridiculous.
love that if you just went all in and let's do like the toy company thing and let's just give them all new vehicles or fucking mechs or shit, right?
Yeah, because also we sort of felt like if you watch the show, the storylines of it all being about Ballmaster were kind of it would get tiring. It's like okay, we get it, they got to work together, but like again, like I want to see fucking Megafist and Stinkfinger and these all the other teams. Like I want to see them fighting and have stories, and that's why I was trying to tell the network. I was like, listen, we got a lot of good characters here. This thing could really go, but it just depends. Again, I don't know what the ratings were. I don't, it was trending on HBO Max for weeks. I don't know if that's a placement that they put it there for people to watch, or if it really is trending. Because I always wonder about Netflix. Like how they say, popular now. I'm always wondering, is it really popular or they want me to watch it?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's definitely they want you to watch this.
A lot of times like, oh, we just spent a bunch of money on this. Please watch it. Please return our investment.
Yeah, but I'm hoping I'll say this, and I don't mean it. I don't want to be negative at all, but sometimes I feel like the network isn't totally behind this stuff. And when that thing was up there, I was like, holy shit, this is next to like fucking Chris Rock and Mark Maron. What the fuck's going on? Like, I don't know people, because here's the other thing. With the PR thing, they got their normal people they work with. But they don't, there's certain people there that are awesome and really like this stuff and watch it. And there's other people I think it's just their job. And so to say it nicely, I contacted, it's like you guys, I started talking, I contacted all these anime blogs. I just contacted all these things, and people just like, oh, we'll totally do an interview. And I was like, fuck yeah, I'll do it too. And I just tried to be all grassroots about it because I was like, if anime fans don't watch it and they don't want to see it and it's on there, and I mean, then it's not popular. Then fuck it, But I'm not sure if it's like people are watching it, but I hope they are. But I don't know. So sorry, but my point is like, it's like you guys. Like I've tried to talk to people more because I feel like I'm a big Venture Brothers fan, and those guys are super cool, and I know them, and like they talk to their fans, and they're really cool, and that's something I love about Adult Swim. Like, I love people who love Adult Swim because like we're all kind of the same. Like we're all, I don't know, it didn't used to be normal. It wasn't normal to watch fucking Avengers or like zombies or like death metal. It used to be, not that we're all outcasts or something. It's totally fine. Everyone likes it, but
yeah.
It just felt like you were with your people or something.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%.
Yeah, I know completely what you're talking about.
So it's like weird because, I feel like sometimes, it's like you guys, these fans, they're so supportive, and I'm so thankful, and I want to engage and, do all this, and it's like, the network will be like, and again, I love Natasha Lyonne. She's probably been more involved in the net. She was retweeting and posting all this stuff. She came on the live stream, but that was like, oh, we should get something to Natasha, and I want to be like, man, Natasha Lyonne's fans don't watch fucking Adult Swim. They don't watch fucking Ballmasterz. Like, they watch her stuff and it's amazing, but I don't know. Sometimes I just wonder. I'm like, don't you get who your audience is? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a big thing. This would be good. I guess it'd be good to go to like anime cons and shit and try to like probably interact with people there. Like I think that's the best environment to go to.
But it's weird too because like you can get hate from that because like with Toonami, I didn't know if people are gonna be like, fuck this, it's not real. And I mean the new special is technically kind of real anime because it's 4C, but the other one, I get it. The other one was a little abrasive for people maybe, or too raw. But I don't know.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me. See, I was at a local convention in my town not too long ago, and I was in my little Leto cosplay, and there was these guys dressed up as like Monarch henchmen from Venture Bros, and I was like, yo, sick cosplays, dude, and they're like, yo, what are you? And I'm like, yeah, I'm from that other Adult Swim show, Ballmaster. You should like watch it. There's a special coming out in like 2 days. It was
awesome.
it was very worrisome. I was like, oh man, how many people know
it's
this?
awesome you promote it. Well, you want to know a funny fact? You should have told him. Remember the episode with the mob with Joe Kracko and that guy with a sword?
Oh yeah.
That's Jackson Public is that voice of that guy.
I remember, dude. That's sick.
And Doc's Ace's manager when Ace gets all famous, Milky. That's Doc Hammer. Those guys are really cool and nice and supportive.
That's awesome.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, they're the best. I love all those old. I mean, they're old now, I guess, but I love that old school Adult Swim stuff. It's so good.
I mean,
yeah, that's. God, I fucking love old Adult Swim. I love a lot of Adult Swim, honestly.
Yeah, I like do Venture Bros, Aqua Teen. Like I love I
Venture Bros, Aqua Teen, Home Movies, Metalocalypse.
Metalocalypse.
And Home Movies is the same create. It's Brendan's show.
Yeah.
Which is crazy
he's
when
awesome.
you think about it. Yeah.
Oh, Christy, I just got reminded of a question I was going to ask you a while ago. This has been on my mind for a while, but what was the deal with that Sasquatch or Squatch show? Was that a show, or what was the deal with that?
How do you even know about that?
I know, right? I asked myself that too.
It's okay. I'm just curious.
Okay, so I remember
I might have posted it a little bit, maybe.
I think it was New Year's 2022. You posted on your story like a little animation of Sasquatch or like Squatch or whatever, and then I was like, okay, what is this? And I was like, okay, I looked up online Sasquatch, Christy Karacas, and I saw a website where it's like Squatch and it had a couple images, but anytime I try to look that up again, I can't find the images anymore. I still have them on my phone.
It was a kid show pitch I worked on really hard for, I'd say, a year and a half or so. It was during COVID, and it's funny. The guy who I was doing it with is the guy who actually hooked us up with 4C. He used to work for Cartoon Network Asia, and he works in Japan. And we pitched it everywhere. We got so close to doing it with Disney, and at the last minute it didn't work out. And it was a kid show pitch. It was like a Squatch that was like a single dad with kids, and the concept was like, he's supposed to protect the forest, but his kids are the biggest threat to the forest. And I think it would have been really fun, but these things are hard. It's so hard to get a show off the ground, and it's so hard, especially nowadays. People want existing IP. I'd say it's strange because it's like there's more the need, there's a need for content more than ever because there's so much, people just need to be fed this content constantly. But it's really hard. I mean, a lot of these places, they want, they just keep rebooting things. And, I had a talk with someone at Warner, and she's super awesome, and I really like her. And she was like, Christy, I'm going to be honest, like, it's so hard to pitch anything. She goes, if you want to do your take on anything we own, that's what you should pitch, because it's more of a chance of getting it. So if I was doing like Christie's version of Captain Caveman or something, but like it's kind of sad because it's like, I like classic stuff, but I want to see something new.
Yeah, I understand that completely. It is unfortunate. It's just like, it's so dependent on brand recognition now. Like it just has to be that way. And it's like, because of that, you get a lot of series now that have just kind of reached a point where they've, like, I am a huge Transformers fan. I grew up with that shit. I loved it. But one of the favorite things with Transformers was that it would always kind of go through different iterations and change. Get new designs, new takes on characters, new art styles, new mediums, and everything. But it's kind of at that point now where it's like, this is such a household name. It's like they already have their demographic. They're not really trying to push it anymore. So they're kind of just doing the same thing over and over now. They're appealing to the classic, the Generation 1 stuff. And it's like, I don't want to see that really. I want to see, another take with a new art style and some new designs, because that's what I always loved about Transformers, was just how they
want to know. You know how gross these people think? No. This is a true story. So there's a it's something with DC. It's for Warner. It's like it's some Batman property where it's really for little kids or something. What is it? It's like their cars. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do.
I think I know what you're talking about.
I don't know the name. Yeah, but I know it's like a preschooler aimed like Batman cartoon where they drive like cars.
And there was a panel at one of these animation festivals, and they were like basically literally saying like, we want to get them into it because then they'll age up and be ready for Justice League. And it's
Yeah.
like they're, consuming. They're just thinking about consumption. Like, get them young, and they're gonna buy our shit forever. And again, it's not evil. Like, I love fucking comics and superheroes, and all, but it's like, the realistic side of the way. Sorry, I don't mean to be pessimistic. I'm not even in a bad mood. It's just sometimes it sucks because at the end of the day, it's a business, and the business side matters. But sometimes you're like, man, that seems to drive it. Whereas, we were talking about, and again, it's all interesting. The business side's very interesting, but man, sometimes you think they don't even care about the show.
Yeah, the artistry.
Sometimes.
That's the fucking insane thing about it is looking back is that relationship in entertainment between business and artistry has always been synonymous, and the two have always kind of had to work together. But it's gotten to a point now with these big IPs where they're at such a point where they're so comfortable. It's like, oh, Marvel is a tight. It's never going away. We don't have to worry about it.
Yeah,
anymore,
yeah,
right?
that's-
Like the artistry can take a back seat to the business now because they know, like, oh, it doesn't matter what we put out. The name is enough to carry it. Like
I will
it's
say
That's why business, like, kind of looking back at like I don't know, like early Nickelodeon or early Cartoon Network or whatever. Like, since they didn't have pre-existing IPs, they were just doing whatever, and then those new IPs became juggernauts. And instead of just continuing that to do like a bunch of new IPs, they're like, let's just keep using that IP.
Yeah, no, it's the SpongeBob thing, right? Because it's like SpongeBob just came in and it was like it sweeped house, and it's like, okay, well, it doesn't matter. Like now it's like SpongeBob's like on what, like season 20 or some shit, right? It's like it doesn't matter how good or bad it is. They're just gonna keep making it. It could get good, it could get bad, but it's like it's the same thing with like any of these big houses, like Marvel, Star Wars, Transformers. Like maybe something good will come out of it, but it's like as long as it keeps making money, it's gonna stay. It doesn't matter how good or bad it gets.
Yeah, and it's like it's a bummer because like as someone who truly loves entertainment and I want stuff to be good, it's like you're saying like those days that those Linda Semensky days at Cartoon Network when things like Dexter, Powderpuff, all these things, like it was exciting because it was like these were exciting, fresh new things that felt, again, I'm an animator and I like animation, so I'm a nerd, but like it felt exciting and it was good.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Not that everything's bad and everything, but it's like, I don't know, it's just
it feels more limited now.
The same the same principles apply to anime too. Like it's been that way since the conception, because it's like the whole thing originally. It's like, oh, anime got super big in the 50s because they wanted after they were rebuilding their economy, they were industrializing, and they were like let's get entertainment going. So they got early anime going on, and then you had fucking Ultraman come out, right? And that was like the biggest thing ever because Ultraman invented the model of like you make there are three kinds of toys. There's Ultraman himself, the hero. He's always got the best toy because that's the one all the kids are gonna want. Then you make the monsters because you got to get one to fight. Then you make the support vehicle because you got to have something for the monsters to destroy. So that was the golden rule, and it was always like, okay, that's where the money is now. And then so it's like these shows would come out, they would do well, and they would sustain. Like that's how a lot of anime sustain themselves. It's not off, like that's how Gundam's always, it hasn't been off ratings, it's been off the model kits. And
yeah,
it's just the kind of thing. It's like if the business side of it does well enough, then hopefully the executives will let the artists flourish, right, and do whatever they want.
I mean, look at Pokemon. It's a card game, but people love the show and they love the thing. And there's nothing wrong with it when it's like, I don't know how to say this, if it's honest or sincere, but I don't know. Whatever. Whatever. It's just how the world is, I guess.
And also, I just want to say, for like, even with pre-existing IPs, like if it's a DC thing or whatever, like, I get excited for those when it's like, oh, it'll be like this person's kind of personal take on it.
Well, because then you can see the reason that's exciting is because you can see the artistry in it. It doesn't feel like a product. It feels like a vision. Like that's the core of it all. Is like why it gets so exciting. Is you're like, oh, at the end of the day, like there's some level of art to it. Like if it's just corporate sludge, then you're not gonna get excited for it.
Well, you want to know something funny? I was talking to this was I think this was around when Ballmasterz was happening. I was talking to Warner about there's a guy at Warner I know, and you know, he's like, "Is there anything you want to do?" And I was like, "Man, I'd love to do fucking Herculoids. I love that fucking show."
Oh.
And I started to talk to him about rebooting Herculoids. He goes, "Man, Christy, I gotta tell you, he goes, everybody wants to reboot Herculoids, but it's never, you know, never works because I don't know, man. Like maybe you should." We were talking, and it never happened. But I still to this day kind of want to go back and go, "Can we revisit that conversation?" Because like, I think Herculoids are so cool, and I was trying to think like, how do you make it like a bigger?
There's that much of a demand to like. There's that many people who want to bring back Herculoids.
I think there's a lot of people like my age that were really, because again, that was on very early on Saturday mornings. It was a huge influence. I mean, Alex Toth designs. I mean, look, same guy who designed the Herculoids designed Space Ghost. Because here's the other weird thing: those cartoons, I don't think they were shared universe, but Birdman and Space Ghost were in the same universe.
Yeah.
And then there's
and Aquatoon.
yeah, you're right, that too. Oh shit, just opened up a can of worms. And but those old cartoons, what's the other one? There's one guy, he kind of turned into a superhero, but he's like a, God, what was he? He had like a club. There were some of these real weird, I think they were Hanna-Barbera, but Alex Toth almost designed all of them. And I was like, what if this was like, and again, 5 or 10 years ago it made sense. The multiverse shit's just getting played out, in my opinion. Like, DC's doing it, Marvel's doing it, everything all at once. You know, everything now is multiverse, shared universe. It's so, I just think it's getting old and not exciting anymore. But I was saying, you know, I was like, what if Herculoids, and then you start to realize, oh wait, some of these dudes are in the same universe, and we slowly introduce it like a new, because again, they want a franchise. And, you know, it was fun to talk about. I don't know. But, oh, fuck you. I was going to say something else you guys gave me. Wait. Herculoids, what else? Alex Toth? You were saying, shit, everyone wants to do, I don't know. But anyway, I mean, do you guys know, Herculoids? I mean, it's kind of...
I'm familiar with I'm familiar with it because it's just one of those, like, you know, Hanna-Barbera cartoons from that time. Like, I've seen the, like, the designs are fucking cool.
The designs are awesome. It's kind of like you said about some of those other things. Like, it's just fun to watch because, like, I mean, the stories just get... I mean, there's a lot of them, and they're kind of ridiculous. But I was like, what if you took it serious? And what if it was like, you know what I was thinking of? Remember, did you see the reboot of Lost in Space?
Yeah.
I really liked it. You didn't like it?
No, I had a friend who worked on it.
I loved it. Like, and I was like, oh my god! Like, if these the Herculoids, you know how they're like friends with these weird monsters? I was like, what if this planet is just this horrible, savage planet of beasts, and like maybe they're stranded for some reason, and like I don't know why they become friends with these beasts, but it's like you gotta learn how they meet them, and then they have to kind of work together to kind of survive because it's so deadly and crazy, and like I just was like, it could be really wild, and like I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I could see that happening.
That almost reminds me of when I was a kid. They had this like He-Man reboot come out.
Oh yeah.
And it was more serious and like dark. And I remember when I was a kid, I was like, "This was the coolest shit ever."
or the Thundercats remake, that for the Toonami one.
Yeah, those were awesome.
Oh, that show!
Like,
was
I thought they were so cool when I was a kid.
You know what's so rad is when you used to get He-Man, and I used to collect them, they would have these like posters of like all the shit Transformers had too, of like, you know, all the, you know, this is not season 3, but what do you call it, like edition 2
like
or
Wave.
whatever the fuck. Yeah, and it would be these.
Are you talking about like the
paintings?
old ass Transformers, like the cell paintings with all of like the characters and like the giant mural?
Yeah, and He-Man would have it too, and they were crazy. Like they were like, you know, every character and vehicle in one action battle.
I'm trying to remember the artist. The Transformers ones are ridiculous. I'm trying to remember the name of the artists. He was German, I think. He did them, and those like insane, like mural artworks with all of just like the toys. Oh my god, what's his name? I'm gonna go crazy thinking about it now. Here, I'm just gonna Google it.
I just love those kind of things where like, you know, it's got
that art used to make me go crazy as a kid because I'd see like, oh my god, this is so sick. And my friend, I remember a couple of years ago we were having our Christmas party, and my friend brings over this book he got. It's like the art of Transformers, and it's just got all of those old box like sprawl arts. It's so sick.
God, the GI Joes had a lot of.
The GI Joe ones were sick. Oh, David Schleinkoffer. He also did Robotech.
Oh wow! Wait, David. Oh, you're gonna put it in the chat?
Yeah, I'll link. I will
don't know
link.
how to spell that.
David Schleinkopf.
Oh, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, these old these old toys. Like they knew how to market toys back then. Like goddamn.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like make a fucking billboard. Yeah, this is crazy.
Like I would kind of kill to go back to that era where it's like, okay, we got a crazy toy line with all these weird character designs. Let's make a weird universe and a cartoon and all this cool art, and let's just sell it. Like,
well,
I don't mind if your intent is to sell a product as long as it's like cool, you know.
Yeah, well, you know another one? Do you remember, do you know Micronauts? Look that up.
Yeah.
That art was fucking nuts.
Yeah,
and you know what's
I was
weird?
thinking about Micronauts the other day, actually.
Micronauts is super weird, but I think there was a Micronauts Marvel comic.
I remember
but
Micronauts
because
they're a Marvel IP technically.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was actually thinking like I've been trying to write more and like look, I don't have an agent or anything, and I was like, Rick and Morty dudes are writing fucking Marvel movies now and shit, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I want to do that shit. And, like, I was thinking of, like, trying to pitch, like, a Micronaut thing and then get an agent and be like, Marvel, I want to make Micronauts.
That could be
but,
sick.
Like, Micronauts is weird, though.
I think a Micronauts, like, cartoon would be awesome.
I think a cartoon could definitely be the best shot, because it's like, yeah, it's definitely, as far as IPs go, it's very, like, niche. I don't think most people really are familiar with it. But, yeah, it is peak in that kind of 80s era of like, oh, looking at these designs, these are very obviously action figures, and I love them.
Well, that's what I love about these things that you just posted. Like the paintings of them, they look like the toys. They don't look like Bumblebee's the fucking toy. Like
they got the weird ass like toy proportions, and they don't have the animation
it's super
ones.
Cool and kind of interesting. I don't know. But Micronauts are weird. Like they had weird things. Like I remember there was one called Hornetroid. It was like this robot hornet that was just weird, and like it was a spaceship, and like it was kind of creepy.
Yeah, these designs are all over the place. They're sick.
Yeah, it's sweet. I think that's the reason why I'm so excited for like the James Gunn kind of DC stuff. Is because it seems like he's more in the camp of like I just want to let people do what they want to do. Like I don't care if it's niche. I just want because they're doing shit like Booster Gold or the Authority Creature Commandos. Like yeah.
I'm excited. I hope it goes to that area because like that was kind of since Marvel movies started really getting mainstream, there was a big sort of attempt to make them more streamlined and I guess accessible to larger audiences by kind of toning down the sillier aspects of it. But it's like that's kind of what I always liked about this shit was that it was just weird and cool. And it's like if I see
Marvel tried to make it more.
Well, like, if you look at the designs, right, and the costumes, like, if you look at Captain America, especially, or, like, kind of Iron Man, they tried to sort of... Like, Captain America, he went from, you know, the traditional in the first Avenger, he had the very traditional, like, blue stars and stripes costume, and then for a while, he didn't really even have, like, the mask or anything, he just sort of wore, like, a jumpsuit kind of outfit that was vaguely reminiscent of his comic design. They did that for a lot of the characters. It's like, and they kind of just made the you know, they it's not like they didn't drop it entirely. Like Thor Ragnarok was a really good one because that was definitely way more in the realm of like, oh, let's do weird, campy comic book shit.
And Guardians of the Galaxy, of course.
Guardians of the Galaxy is a big one.
Well, this is just proves your point. I mean, I think Gunn kind of influenced their whole direction because he went for it and they were all like, oh my god, this works. I mean, if you look after Guardians of the Galaxy, all the movies seem the template is, and I know it's a lot of the same artists.
Speaking of Micronauts, do you want to see something fucking awesome I just found? I will put this in chat. I found this. Hold on.
Whoa. I see it. I think. Is this guy with a sword?
Yeah. That is. I've just found this thing. It's just some interview with some like artist who did a lot of art for it. And I'm looking at this guy's This is very cool. Holy shit.
Yeah, I found this. I mean, this stuff's genuinely weird. Like, it's cool.
It's just out there. That's why I like it. It's unique. Like, dude, this artwork, holy shit, you guys gotta look at this. It feels very, like, Transformers Super Robot inspired looking at this shit. It's cool as hell.
Well, the other thing is they also have what's the other one they have? Rom, Rom the Space Knight, and that's a kind of obscure one, but he looks, because there was a toy of that. It's kind of weird also. Because I think Rom and this were things Marvel bought the rights to make the comic. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think so.
Because wasn't Rom this cool weird toy?
Yeah, I believe he was.
Yes.
There's a lot of really weird instances of that, like even we talk about Robotech and Transformers are huge examples of just like, buying the rights to this random toy or this random thing and then just kind of making something different out of it. It's just bizarre.
Yeah. There's all this time travel shit.
You know what I found?
Acro Year and like what?
I think Rom got worked into Transformers actually.
Fuck.
Like, because Marvel used to do the Transformers comics in the 80s, and I think there were characters.
They even had the crossovers with the Joes, remember?
Yeah, and then
fucking Cobra Commander and Megatron or something.
Yeah, no, they still do that because IDW. And I'm looking at it. Apparently, Rom just IDW had the rights to him too, so he's in the IDW comics a lot. I forgot about that.
Huh.
But yeah, no, Rom is basically a Transformers character here. That's cool.
It's so sick.
There's another instance of that too. There's a Marvel character called Death's Head who was originally an original character made for the Marvel Transformers comics, and then after they lost the publication rights for Transformers, they still had the rights to Death's Head because he was an original character. So let's just repurpose him and put him in like Guardians of the Galaxy comics and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny when that stuff happens. Like I feel like I remember being a kid reading the Star Wars Marvel comics, and like they'd have like a Boba Fett issue or something, and you'd be like, huh? And like some writer got to, because back then, it wasn't like it is now. There's all this, control and attention. And,
there wasn't a focus on continuity. It was just, you want to do a thing to it.
Yeah, and then they'd have fucking Bucky O'Hare in there or something, or some weird.
I love Bucky O'Hare so much.
I feel like he was in Star Wars or something. Maybe I'm wrong.
He was.
Yeah, George Lucas Lucas
hated
rabbit
him.
Guy that hated him, right?
Yeah.
George Lucas hated that
character.
character.
Yeah, I don't know. George Lucas just had like a huge problem with the character, and he was just like, I don't want him to show back up.
As a kid, he didn't belong in Star Wars. He belongs in Guardians of the Galaxy, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely you look at his dynasty, that is not a Star Wars character. Star Wars aliens are supposed to look like weird and grotesque, or like big hairy men or something. They're not supposed to look like cartoon rabbits, right?
Yeah, it's like that new. God, I mean, that Mandalorian show is so overrated. And there's these pirates in it, and they look like cartoon jokes of they're all aquatic themed. I was like, what are you doing?
Well, some of those guys, those pirate guys, I haven't seen the new episode, but some of those guys are. From those aliens are from Return of the Jedi.
Right, but you got to see it. They just do it all dorky. It's like
it's a bit goofy.
Dumb. Yeah,
I like to do the Obi-Wan show when they had that bounty hunter who's like a weird dinosaur guy with a gun. He was cool.
Yeah, we watched that Obi-Wan show, and I think the biggest takeaway we took from it was there's just a part where there's just a random background character who was like a bounty hunter, was just a dinosaur guy with a gun, and I was like, that guy looks cool. It's like the only thing I took away from it. I was just like, that's a cool dinosaur guy.
You know what I like to watch? Do you know those guys? I might have the name wrong. It's like aerial knots or something. Have you seen that thing, Larry? Like if you look up Larry, but it's like they basically take all the Obi-Wan stuff and redub it like its own thing. They're like Larry like to party, and it's like, oh my god, it's so fucking funny. I think. I mean, I'm a nerd.
Okay, I'm just seeing that. I've
they
never
do this
seen
thing
this
where they have
before.
dude, it's really funny. You'll go
Larry
down the rabbit hole.
Kenobi, an Oriole not Star Wars story. I'm gonna bookmark this.
It's so funny. I love it. I don't know. They'll be like,
I'll check it out.
They call the plants like, did you go to Dance World? Like he calls everything like Party World and Dance World. He always wants to like get party and stuff. And then they just kind of manipulate the footage where like, whenever he fights, he's like, let's dance battle, and they just dance. It's really dumb, but it's funny.
I love that bit in Attack of the Clones where he just goes to that nightclub.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched Chad Vader?
No.
Oh my goodness.
Is it similar?
No, it's what it is. Yeah,
I'm
you
looking
can
it up
explain
right
if you
now.
want.
Chad Vader was an old web.
Chad Vader.
It was an old web show, and it was about like Darth Vader's brother Chad, and he just works at a grocery store.
I'm gonna like watch this.
It's so good. It's so fucking good.
See, that's the thing. I
Awesome.
like stuff like this.
Yeah, it's great. It's got that peak like early YouTube feel to it. It's so funny.
I'm pretty sure George Lucas he liked Chad Vader too, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He was a fan of it. It was one of.
It's so funny.
Because George Lucas liked parodies. Like he was all for that. Like that was the thing with him, right? He was all in on that. So
Yeah,
was, like,
he was like, hell yeah, go ahead, make Spaceballs.
Make Spaceballs, just don't make any toys.
And then the whole joke of the movie is
that
all
they can't make toys of it.
No, it's all like trying to sell you products that don't actually
exist.
Spaceballs, the lunchbox. That's my favorite.
The lunchbox that is just a Transformers lunchbox with Optimus Prime on it.
Yeah, it's good. It's funny.
Bit.
I feel like everyone's too hard on George. The guy's a genius.
They are.
He did
I
the craziest
agree.
thing, and he's actually a good person.
Yeah, I think
It's
George
like-
is very smart watching him talk. Like, I think he understands a lot. It's just that he had a lot of difficulty communicating some of his ideas, I feel like. I think
Totally, like,
as far as being a creative.
He's
I
probably
quite
like
him.
he's probably on the spectrum or something. Because like, yeah, you
He's
there
definitely on the
somewhere,
spectrum.
He seems like a terrible people person. Yet he made this crazy thing, and the job of a director is probably to, like you say, communicate what you want. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the guy was instrumental in creating that, Indiana Jones, so many things, and
No, I have a ton of
basically
respect for
digital
him.
editing, fucking so many things.
Like most of the foundational shit that's used in filmmaking even today came from like him and Star Wars and THX, and he's just done so much groundbreaking work with that, with ILM, like with all the effects people, like so many. It's crazy. Like Star Wars just would not. If Star Wars had not happened, filmmaking would just not be in the same place it is now.
And then everyone will just like fucking
like dogpile.
hate on him about Jar Jar or something, or like
Yeah.
George Lucas, he's a fucking idiot. It's like, man, shut up.
Well, honestly, as I've grown up, I've like completely 180'd, and I'm like, you know what, George? I love all this stupid shit that
I love
you did
all
for
the
this
dumb
movie.
shit you put in these movies, George.
It's so
awesome. I love all
awesome.
this silly
I'm the
aliens.
same. I'm the same. I used to hate the prequels, and look, I hate the sequels now. And I'm like,
Yeah.
the prequels are kind of awesome. They're kind of
I
awesome.
think the prequels are very like, I love the sense of imagination that went into them. I think that where they genuinely falter is in the dialogue, but I think aside from that, I love a lot of the idea work. I think the design work in them's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's just an
Costumes are good.
idea of like, okay, George should not have been like had full control over his dialogue. Like that's just like the thing. I just like, okay, somebody else probably should have like looked at that first. But I think aside from that, like I do think there's a lot of really cool ideas in the prequels and stuff like the Clone Wars is kind of ratified that.
Well,
yeah,
look,
and
it's
I feel bad for him with the sequels because like when
They were
he
supposed to
made
use his ideas.
when he made that deal, one of the things for it was like, oh, you'll let me be part of like the creative process of it. And then after they bought it, they were just like,
No.
nope. No, it's
Yeah.
not in writing, so we're not
Yeah.
doing that.
Have you guys ever read the transcript? I don't think it's an audio, but I have the transcript of it. It's like it's the conversation between George Lucas, Spielberg, and Kasdan talking about inventing Indiana Jones, and it's transcribed from an audio recording. Do you know about this?
I feel like I did read that, but it was a long time ago.
It's like amazing, and what's really funny is you see the personalities. Like Kasdan seems all funny, and like Spielberg kind of funny too. But George seems like George will have really clear ideas, but he almost seems like this stick in the mud. Like he'll be like,
Yeah.
he's like this, and he'll say something, but then the other two are always like, yeah, but maybe it's like this, and it's always funnier, and it's like,
Yeah, it is very
so
funny because it's like just that whole relationship between George and Lawrence Kasdan. It's like,
it's kind of awesome because you feel like you can. It's like you're a fly on the wall of them developing. Like there's a thing where it's like, he doesn't use a gun. He needs something different. He'll say something like, maybe it's like a whip. And they're like, yeah, and he does stuff with it. He saves the day, and then Kasdan's always cracking a joke, but yeah, maybe he like uses it to grab his beer. Like he'll say these jokes where you're like,
yeah, no, I've
really
read
funny.
that. It was a long time ago, but I have read that.
God, I think I have the PDF. I could throw it in the chat.
I would love to retouch on that because I genuinely I think listening or George Lucas or like especially George Lucas especially, but I think like in general that old classic relationship that all of those people had together, like it's so interesting to me.
Yeah, totally. And I think they were on vacation because like Star Wars was such a success. They were like at some reason, let's go on vacation and try out this new idea.
I also genuinely think like the first 3 Indiana Jones and first 3 Star Wars movies are some of the most like fun times you can have while watching a movie.
Those are perfect, like, rainy day movies. Just genuinely, like, I think Indiana Jones is a perfect rainy day movie because you're like, oh, I'm not gonna do anything. I want to just chill out and watch some fucking Indiana Jones. I want to see him punch Nazis.
They're just genuinely so fucking fun.
Totally.
I rewatched Raiders recently, and it blew my mind. And there's things about it that are like, they might seem old-fashioned, but they're like just so classically good. And like, the choreography of the action scenes is really good. It's like, it's not random or boring, and it always has all these reversals. Like, you know, like the fight in the bar, or like the fight with the guy with the airplane, or like the truck. It's like,
It's never
influence.
dull. It's never
Yeah,
dull.
it's
Yeah.
great.
From like both a technical standpoint and just from whatever's happening on screen, like it's never dull.
I remember hearing about that, like the famous like Indiana Jones just shoots the guy with the sword bit, and how at first
Yeah.
it was gonna just be like a full choreographed fight, and then somebody, it might have been like Harrison Ford, was like, well, I have a gun, why don't I just shoot him?
I think I remember suddenly Harrison Ford was like, I don't want to fucking do this.
Yeah, it's funny how those things happen, and it becomes like this iconic scene of like, you know,
Yeah.
yeah. I literally rewatched that, and it was great. It was great.
Great movie. We're at 2.5 hours. Do you wanna slow down?
Yeah, I'm fine. I mean, I'm actually, again, I'm really having fun. I could talk about
Is
this
this
shit
going
all
to
night,
be
but
the longest SBC pod? I'm having a great time, but yeah, I'm just wondering, is this
Yeah.
going to be the
it
longest
honestly
SBC
feels like
pod?
it feels like 5 minutes to me though. Like,
Yeah,
like,
no,
it's
it's been a blast. I could honestly probably go at it. I could
yeah.
go at it
I
longer
could
if I
keep
wanted
going, honestly.
Crap did tell me he might have to dip out early.
Yeah, I might have to leave. I'm sorry about that.
if you leave, do we have to stop?
Not necessarily, no,
Oh.
but it might be. We can honestly, if you want, if you're having fun here, we could always just do another episode.
Oh yeah, we could do that.
This doesn't have to be a one and done
wrap
deal.
Up
We
in like 15, 20 minutes.
all right.
But I just enjoy. I mean, we're almost not even talking about Ballmasterz. We're kind of talking about other stuff. It's
Well,
kinda
that's
funny.
that's the fun. I was excited for this because I was like, oh, this is gonna be. I hope we get to shoot the shit because I can tell from watching the show that you clearly know your shit and you're. Yeah, it's the kind of thing where it's like the show is cool. It's like the guy who made it has to be cool.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that. I tell people I'm not lying. I'm like, look, I just love this stuff. I love movies. I love TV. I love comic. I just love the stories and everything. And it's not. How do I say this? Some people, they're kind of. I don't want to say they're like Hollywoody or something, but like they're into the cool stuff. I like making the stuff and watching it. And I like meeting the fans, and I really like.
You
it.
like
It's
what you like, and I respect that quality
Yeah.
a lot. It's
Yeah,
a very
like,
it's-
Well, it's funny,
like
I
watching.
become good friends with like Dana's obviously Dana Snyder's the voice of Baby Ball, and he's Master Shake, and like I become
Yeah.
friends with like these other Adult Swim people.
I was really gonna ask for that. I wanted to know about that because he seems really cool.
Dude, I actually texted him. I was like gonna see if he'd jump on here with us as a joke.
Dude,
And
holy
he's-
shit! I would have
way.
lost it.
But he's such a cool guy. He normally would. He wrote me. He's like, I just landed in LA after literally 24 hours of bad travel, and I normally would say of course, but I just can't today. But
Oh
that's how
my
nice he is. Like
God,
he
dude.
answers instantly.
Okay, we gotta do a part 2.
Let's do one with him and Bowser. Bowser's like,
that
No
would be
way.
amazing.
No
Yeah,
fucking
oh,
way.
holy
That'd be
shit.
awesome.
because here's the thing, they're just like me. They're totally into this shit. Like they're super fans. Like
Yeah.
Bowser. Bowser does the voice of Stingray in Superjail. Bowser sent me. He made a fake Stingray action figure himself
That's
that he
sick.
sent me. And I was like, "Are you crazy? Like you're like this legendary voice guy." No, we have been talking about it 'cause I can actually hear it in my voice that's cracking. I'm like, it's funny.
Yeah.
But no, the stuff. It's like, I don't know. I just talk about it all night.
I know I'm the same way. I could go on. Like I genuinely like when it's something that I'm actually invested in. I could just go on. Like
Because the other interviews, it's like they're cool, but they're always like, how'd you get this show or this and that. I'm like, I'd rather just, talk
Just
about
talk.
real
I'd
stuff.
rather
yeah.
just talk.
Yeah,
Like
the holy shit, I'm fumbling. Yeah, that's what I really like about like how it's gone so far. Because
honestly, I was
it
expecting
feels-
maybe like a
it
20
feels-
minute like.
feels
Okay,
more
let's all
like
get our questions out.
natural, like just kind of like just talking about
It's less
like,
of an
shit you
interview, more
up.
of just a podcast.
I knew this was gonna be better than any of the other interviews because I've seen a couple where they've interviewed you, Christy, and they kind of ask the same things. It's like 10 minutes long or something, but like this one you go more in depth into actual like cool shit. You know what I mean?
It's like because if you got 10-20 minutes, so you got to go through that bullet points list if you're an interviewer. That's just kind of how it is. But it's like I was like, I want to pick your brain, dude. Like I know I can tell like okay, I want to go past because it's like I think everyone's gonna ask the same couple questions, and it's like those are always interesting, but
well, you know your Gundam models.
I can hear the intimidation. I can hear the intimidation.
Want to hear a funny story? My friend Luca, who's awesome, he has some uncle or something. He's like, where do you see what my uncle sent? And let me see if I can find this picture. I don't know what his deal was. He worked for Amazon or something, but he just sent him like a shitload of Gundam models. And I was like,
oh,
well, your uncle makes this shit? He's like, yeah, he's really into Gundam, but he just gave me all these. And hold on.
I was on a trip last year in around October up north to the Okanagan in BC because they were having a convention there and they wanted me and a friend to go there and do our panel, History of Mecha and to speak and help out with their activities there at their convention. And one of the organizers was he was like thanks guys for coming on short notice and doing this, right? And he was moving to the East Coast, and he his wife was like, okay, you gotta get rid of it because he has the biggest collection of Gundam kits I've ever seen because he does kit bashing, so he'll buy like 2 of every kit and then he'll take the parts and he'll just make some weird shit. And so he had like just boxes upon boxes filled with Gundams, and he was like, you guys want anything? And it didn't feel like real life because we walked away with like 5 cases full of just unbuilt Gundam kits, and some of them were like worth like $300, and he just gave them to us. It was fucking ridiculous.
So I don't get it. Is Gunpla like a model, but it's also like a game? Like a VR
no,
game
it's not a
VR?
game. You just build them for just because they look cool and they're fun. Like, they're more equivalent to toys than they are to like Warhammer or something like that.
But I thought I saw some trailers where it's like in the world. Is it like their game or something?
They did a show called Build Fighters back in like 2013, I think. And the premise of that show was that it was like it took place in the real world, and in that world like Gundam was fiction, but they had like a thing where it's like they have this thing with this technology where it's like when you build a Gunpla you can control it, and people made this game out of it where they do like war games and shit with their Gundam model kits. So the whole thing of the show ends up being like the character. It's a meta thing where the characters build the model kits and then they do their own spins on the pre-existing designs, and then they compete in this tournament. And it has really good fights. It's actually a really fun watch if you like Gundam. There's a lot of great references, fan service. There's a character in it, and are very tongue-in-cheek about it. There's a character in it who is just Ramba Ral from the original Gundam.
Uh-huh.
And it just looks exactly like him, and his name is Mr. Ral, but nobody in the show acknowledges that he is just the character Ramba Ral. They just call him Mr. Ral, and he's voiced by the same guy too. It's really funny. But yeah, that was the kind of the one where they did like the meta thing. But yeah, Gunpla is just for fun. Like it's very fun to build, and the cool thing about it is it's like, oh, that one's holding a joint. I didn't even know. This is fucking awesome.
Yeah, so rad.
But like
I have more photo. I don't want to overwhelm you, but I
love the Zaku holding the joint. I just saw that. That's awesome.
But look how big the fucking. Look at the ones that are at scale, like the one where it's Sazumi with the camphor. It's like it's fucking. It looks huge.
Oh, that kid is huge. That kid is huge.
So is that are they different?
Those are to scale. Those are to scale.
Yeah, I mean they look big.
Or wait, hold on. No, is that the master? No, those are to scale. Those are the master grades. Those are both master grades. Yeah. So the camphor is small because it's a saboteur.
This one looks like it's an update of Sazumi, but
I have a friend as that. So for Charge Counterattack, there's actually a novel version of it that is not. It's set in its own. It's like an offshoot basically. It's a novelization where they change shit. And the big difference in Charge Counterattack is that's actually not Hathaway. The novel Hathaway is actually a sequel to that novel, not the movie. But The one of the big changes
to me, this looks like Sazumi meets that one, the girl pilot.
It is basically they go from the Sazabi and the new Gundam to the Nightingale and the High New Gundam, which Amuro gets, which is here. I'll post that if you want to look at that.
What's the one called? You named it before that the girl drove.
The Alpha Azuri.
Oh yeah, Alpha. Yeah.
So in the novel, Char ends up piloting that, and Amuro gets the Hainu, which is the finished version of the new Gundam. So instead of just having the one thing of funnels, it has 2 separate sets. So it has like 6 funnels in total.
No, you know what's nuts about this? This is what a nerd I am. I used to also collect that. Remember Hobby Japan, like the magazine?
Yeah.
And I used to always see these Gundams. I'm like, are these aren't in the show? I never knew what shit was. Like, I'd be like, what's this one? What's this one? I was like, they must just be customs. But like, again, when I collected this stuff, like, my friends didn't. I wasn't part of any group. My friends didn't collect it. I just kind of did it alone. Mm-hmm. So it was like, whenever I showed people, they'd be like, whoa, that's crazy. You know, it's weird. But there was this mystery about it all, mm-hmm. which kind of made it fun. But now I'm kind of, you know, sometimes I wonder, like, I want to know, but should I ask? You know, I don't know.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's a fucking beast. This series has been around 40 years, right? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, like I think the whole thing about Gundam that's cool about it now is like you can sit down with the high grade now because of how good the engineering and the injection is. It's just fun to put it together and get like a nice, like, quality product with only a couple hours of work. But the fun of it is that the skills, like the entry level is so low, but the skill ceiling is so fucking high because you can take it as far as you want. If you're like, you know, you can be like, oh, I want to create my ideal version of this suit, and you're gonna go out of your way to, you know, add lines and details and stuff. Or you could be like, oh, I want to change the proportions on this kit because I want the suit to have a more robust figure. So you actually start physically altering the appearance of it. Or you can be like, oh, I want to make my own stuff. So you buy a bunch of kits, take all the parts from it, stick it together, make something new. Or, you know, grab a hunk of plastic, start carving stuff out, make your own shit. You can kind of just do whatever you want with it, right?
No, it's amazing. It's like God, I hope it's not one of you. Somebody, I think, sent me a Ballmasterz thing. Was it one of you?
That was me.
Wait, was that you, Crab?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would look good.
Oh, thank you. I just kind of put it together, I guess. There were some things I could have worked on a bit more, but, like, that was my first time. That was my first model kit, because I just got into Gunpla, like, July around, like, last year, and I was like, you know what? I want to paint it like the Ballmasterz, because that'd be sick, and I think it turned out pretty well.
Well, it looked awesome, and what's so cool is, like, again, I really was into, like, you know, again, Robotech, Gundam, Gunbuster. I like these I like the design of this stuff, and I like how it can be different. You know, they're all different. There's different feelings of it. I remember when this idea of taking Ballmasterz to space, we were like, again, like, we kind of wanted to redesign the Ballmasterz. Kind of wanted to have, again, like the bad mechs, like Titanus's mech and stuff. Like, they didn't have a lot of screen time, but like they were so fun. I was like, man, I hope if this show happens, we could have tons of different, like, you know, mechs and robots and vehicles, and like get into that nerdy style of like, this is this one, you know, like I don't know, I just thought it'd be really fun, you know.
If you need any designs, I might contribute.
Do you design too?
I can. Yeah, I actually. I'm not a very good artist, but I typically design stuff when I build. So I actually have some original stuff that I've done. I can show it to you.
Yeah. Let's make some customs, because like I post on Instagram, like I try to post this I'm going to try to post more art, because a lot of the stuff you don't see is fun. I have this awesome you know, Go Nagai.
Yeah.
I have this Go Nagai book, but it's his sketches. Do you know this book?
Oh, that's cool.
But it's not finished art. It's really amazing.
It's like stuff that didn't get used.
Well, no, it's like him coming up with it. I'm going to take some pictures of it right now. Hold on. See if I can post it, or we could do it in the next. I might have shown it on the live streams, but maybe only Crab saw it. Did I? Like, look, it says it's got Mazinga Z, Great
I think I might have
Mazinger,
seen it.
UFO Grandizer, Get a Robo G, Get a Robo Go.
That's sick.
X Bomber, Psycho Armor, Gorbion. I don't even know that. But it's like,
God damn.
But it's like, all right, here's a good page. I want to find a good page. Like, it's like, you feel like you can kind of understand how he's thinking how to design this shit, because it's like really rough and really like simple shapes and like.
That's the fun of the Go Nagai style though. Is it's very rounded. It's very focused on the big rounded simple shape. Something that's fun to make as a toy.
Yeah, like it looks sculptural.
Gundam, yeah, like again, Gundam was a huge offset to that because it was hard edges at the time. There wasn't a lot of that. I was saying this earlier. I'd love to do my own spin on the Ballmaster at some point, because I've got a lot of. I got a like a entire drawer, basically like 3 drawers full of just like random parts that I've just accumulated from just going to swap meets and buying old like models of all kinds, like jets, tanks, Gundams, and stuff I've salvaged from our community parts graveyard. So sometimes I just like to go in there and just kind of put stuff together and see what I make. So I think it'd be fun to do like a Ballmasterz interpretation.
No, that'd be awesome, and that's like, again, I think this was Crab. Did you post that like Death Tarot card?
Oh yeah, I posted some of that like crew concept art that I saw, and yeah, I posted that.
Yeah, because what happened was during season 1 and season 2, like it was this nice surprise. Like, I mean, you know, I really appreciate everyone who works on the show contributes. It's not just me. It's like everyone who works on it, and you know, I love the crew and I like being friends with them and all this shit, and I assume they know that because like at the end of first season they made this zine and it was a surprise, and they all did like custom art and they made a bunch of zines, and like they had the coolest art, like just, you know, stuff in their own style and different takes, and it was so cool. I mean, a lot of it was better than the show, honestly. And yeah, it was just so cool, but that was one of them.
Like I think the third one on that post, like the third slide, I have that as my phone background, or like, yeah, background wallpaper, because it's just so rad.
It's really there was some really cool stuff.
Yeah, no, that's the fun of it. Sometimes you just know, like, oh, this is just cool. Like, you don't even know what it is.
Nice
like I
surprise.
said, like we have our library, our little like Vampla library, which is our Gunpla group, and we have like a ton of Japanese books about, you know, various like mecha and art and like sci-fi design and stuff like that. And a lot of it's just in Japanese, so you can't really read what it says, but it's like there's so many diagrams and sketches in there. It's just so fucking cool to look at.
Do you have members who speak Japanese?
Yeah,
English?
yeah, we do.
Oh yeah, that's good.
We have members who can read. I just can't personally. I might learn at some point just for how much I'm reading and this shit and whatnot. So I'm like, you know, might as well.
You learned all the official names of the robots. It's like that's a lot.
Yeah.
What kind of sucks is that that Dorohedoro show in manga, it has an art book, but it was only released in Japan and like nowhere else.
Oh
Man.
So, like, I'd like to get it, but I'd probably have to spend like a shit ton to import it. Canada importing is like hell.
It's expensive. Like I bought this Fooly Cooly book once. That was like, you might know it. It's like all the, like, you know, the animation and sequence, all the frames and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I mean, it was really expensive. And what's funny is now I think you can get it as a PDF like online for free.
Yeah, you can. But I mean, it's still like owning the book is cool. Like it's not like, you know, you can get the PDF and you can look at the art.
It's nice to flip through it, yeah.
But it's like having that on your table to just look at whenever you feel is a different feeling altogether.
Yeah, I agree.
It's nice. I want to have more physical reading material.
I know that Bingo's ears shot up when he heard Fooly Cooly.
Oh, Fooly Cooly is the best. You know, I saw, you know, one of the last Adult Swim upfront I was at before COVID, fucking The Pillows played. And when they played I Think I Can, the crowd went crazy.
It's awesome.
They played all the Fooly Cooly music. I mean, people are going nuts.
Man, you know what I just got reminded of? This is like I think a year ago, but I got reminded because you guys were talking about like buying stuff or whatever, but like I remember I was looking on eBay trying to find Ballmasterz merchandise, and I typed in Ballmasterz with an E to see if I can find anything, and some guy was selling this like billboard poster, like it was like 16 feet long or like larger than that for like $200, and I was like, where did this guy get this stuff? Like,
What was his?
What?
Do you know? Can you look up the name? Maybe it was some guy that worked at Adult Swim or something. Or maybe they just ripped it off a billboard.
Probably, because the listing's not on there anymore, but I remember I viewed it, and then he sent me an offer, and I'm like, I don't got the money for this. As much as I wanted, where am I going to put this?
That's really funny,
You could wrap it around your entire room.
Dude, it would be... Man, my room's too small for that.
Put it on your front lawn.
Oh yeah, just install my own billboard and be like, yo, watch it, it's on HBO Max, you know?
Yeah, but for $200, you might be able to like find it on the internet, blow it up, and take it to Kinko's or something. I don't know.
Just attach it to the back of a plane and just have it like fly around.
Yeah.
That'd be sick. Speaking of advertising, I don't know if one of my coworkers at my work is gonna be listening to this, but I'm trying to get him onto Ballmasterz right now. But like he said, he saw like a 4-minute video on YouTube, and he's like he doesn't understand it. I'm like, no, dude, you gotta watch it from episode 1 to Rubicon. You'll understand it. It's so rad. But yeah, hopefully he's listening.
I'm not, I'm no, it's not that hard to understand. It's pretty basic shit.
It's not Kingdom Hearts.
Like people,
yeah.
like I don't know. The way I feel about the show, like it's got so much heart and soul in it. Like
It's
not
just
other.
fun.
It's
Very
just
fun.
It's just fun, and lots of people don't get it. Like some people are like, "Oh, the art style's weird." I'm like, "No, it's not, dude. You just don't get it. It's too rad for you."
That's so true. You just don't get it.
It's also, I just feel like it's kind of a thing that we don't get a lot of anymore, because back in the 2000s, because it was like, the anime sort of blew up in the mainstream in the West for the first time with like Pokemon and all that shit, right? So you had a lot of cartoons that would like, parody or talk about anime in that regard and stuff like that, right? But it's like we don't really get that anymore, because it's just, now we just all kind of have anime everywhere, right? So
yeah, it's almost like even Western things look like anime. I mean, Invincibles looks
there's
like
a ton of
anime
cartoons
to me,
now
it's
that
like,
have adopted it.
Yeah.
But it's
I was
it's what
going
right?
to ask
It's
you
like-
guys. I was going to say, like, what are some of your guys' things you really like right now, or some of your favorite things, like besides Ballmasterz? Like, what else do you guys like? It doesn't even have to be anime, but
you can probably guess from how I've talked the last 2 hours. For me personally,
all retro anime.
yeah, I love. Well, I mean, my big thing, my kind of one and all thing has sort of always been mecha. It's been my love. But I just have a general love for like sci-fi. I love film, anything like that.
Christy, I just got to remind. Did you hear about Barry coming out with season 4 this April?
Oh, I didn't know, but I mean, I love that show. Did we talk about that? I love that show.
We haven't talked about it on here, but I've talked about it with you. I think in Instagram DMs and stuff, and like what's funny is like a couple days after they just announced season 4, and it's coming out April 16th, and it's gonna be so rad when it comes out.
Yeah,
I've heard,
I
good things.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that show, and a huge fan of oh god, what's his name?
Bill Hader.
Yeah, Bill. What's that thing? I'm a huge fan of him. I can't even remember his name. But yeah, he's awesome.
I keep bringing this up, but it's like we're about to hit the 3-hour mark, and as much as I do love this, I do have to go make food. I haven't eaten dinner yet, so
No,
I feel ya.
I guess let's just I guess like
Oh well, I just wanted to say that something that I've liked.
yeah, let's
a
all
whole
just
lot
get our
recently.
last couple points out.
I watched the Sandman show a little while ago,
Yeah.
and I thought that was awesome because
I thought it was
the Sandman's like my favorite comic book ever.
And
So
you felt
I was
like it
like,
did it justice.
I was like, oh my god, this is so this is so good. It just made me so happy to see like an adaptation of something that I love, and for it to
I know
be
it's like
that
when you see
good.
something like Death Note, and you're like, oh no, or like what was the other one? Was it
What's
Fullmetal
funny about
Alchemist? There's like these shitty live action ones. And you're like, it's not
Yeah.
the same.
What's funny about the Death Note one, that's my introduction to Death Note. That was
Oh.
the first Death Note thing I ever watched, was that Netflix movie.
Great introduction.
That. Oh, or like, I mean, what do you all think about the Cowboy Bebop?
I think
Live action.
Yikes.
overall it missed the mark, but I think there's cool elements to it. I think obviously the biggest thing it has going for it is the music.
I also like the guy who played Spike. I thought he was.
I think
pretty
there's some good. I don't think the show is terrible. I think it overall definitely, like, to me, it just kind of felt like it missed the mark. But it
think it's
definitely
lacking.
has moments.
I feel like the animation is so brilliant and sophisticated and amazing that the only live action thing I could even like or accept it would have to be just as good for live action.
Yeah.
And it's such
Yeah.
a high bar that, I mean, I don't
It's
know.
weird to translate visually because, like you said, the animation is sophisticated in the sense that Cowboy
Yeah.
Bebop has insane attention to detail, and in that they
Yeah.
make these smallest actions or details as emphasized and try to make them as cool as possible. So down to like the way like Spike smokes a cigarette or something like that, or how a character pulls a gun is is a very huge part of that show's visual style.
Well, they were
Yeah.
also gonna do that they were gonna do an Akira live action movie, and I was just like, this would like that's something that would never work in live action.
Well, we already have that. It's called Blade Runner.
Yeah.
No, that Akira thing, I was just like, who has the balls to even touch that? What are
Yeah.
you doing? Like, I would never want to do a remake because I would be terrified of ruining something I liked. You
Yeah,
know?
Taika Waititi was in it for like a minute, and then he was like, "Yeah, you know what? It's not worth it."
Well, and hasn't Robotech been on the table for like 20 years?
Yeah.
I want to say it was
Gundam's coming up soon as well in the live action.
No.
Yeah,
Really?
it's coming.
no.
It's a coming.
Who's God?
So we'll see. The
You
guy
know-
that got to direct it is actually, he knows his shit at least, so there's a small chance.
I think
Who
like
is
the
it?
only person I would trust. Hold on, say that first, Ronan.
Oh no, I just was like saying that the guy they got to do the direction. I mean, he seems to really know his shit, so I mean, there's a chance it could turn out all right, but we'll see.
Who is
'cause
he?
You know how these, Jordan Vaught Roberts.
What have they made?
I think he worked on Ex Machina. He also, because he was showing off. He like,
They ought to hire you. You need to be the consultant, mecha consultant.
I'd love that. Yeah, he worked on I think he worked on Kong Skull Island too. Yeah, he did.
But what did he do though? Like some assistant
think he
director or
directed
something?
it.
Oh,
Yeah, he did.
I liked,
Apparently, he's directing
I-
that Metal Gear movie coming out too. Holy shit!
like the video game?
Yeah, they're making a movie of it. At
Well, after
some
Last
point.
of Us, we're going to see a lot more video game adaptations. I have a feeling.
50-50, I guess.
Netflix is trying to do that BioShock one still.
The Borderlands show's coming out too as well.
Oh yeah, the
I-
Borderlands movie
I
with
completely forgot
Jack
about
Black and
that.
Kevin Hart.
Wait, Kevin
Oh.
Hart's in it?
Yep.
I did not hear about that. I heard about the Jack Black part, but not that.
Wait, is it going to be a comedy?
I'm sure it will with a cast like
Yeah.
that and the fact that it's Borderlands. So
Hey, my friend Luca, he just answered my text because I said, hey, they might want to interview your uncle or you about these Gundams. And he wrote, LOL, I wonder if he would do it. Cool. Well, look, thank you so much, man. This was so fun and, like, awesome. And let's all stay in touch. Like,
I've had a
actually
fantastic
I'd
time.
come on again. Like, I love talking about this stuff. It's super fun.
I've had a fantastic time. This definitely didn't go exactly how I thought it would, but I kind of
Yeah.
came into it with an open mind, and I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, same
How
here.
did you think it was going to go?
No, I just
Like-
kind of figured we'd have maybe 20 minutes. We'd just kind of shoot the shit a little bit, fire off our questions. I didn't think we'd be here for 3 hours. I think that's officially made it our longest episode.
No, I didn't
Well,
either. But I mean, again,
yeah.
it feels like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
doesn't feel
it
long.
really doesn't feel like it's been 3 hours. The time flies
I-
when you're having fun.
I think it's got amazing, and I'm like super happy with how it
Yeah.
went. And I just want to say one more thing. I think like the thing that made me like Ballmasterz so much, because I saw it and I was like, oh my god, I love like the gritty, like jagged kind of look to it.
Mhm.
And then it was like, I saw all the inspirations and stuff he took for it, and I was like, man, I want something like this one day. I want to make something like this.
Yeah, well, I hope you do. I always say to people, like, I just want to see more cool stuff out there. Like, you know, everyone's their own worst enemy. Like, everyone wants to
Yep.
make stuff, and you don't make it because you're worried it's going to be bad. And that was my worry when I made this. And when I stopped caring, I go, fuck it, I'm just going to try to make my best version of it and not care. And I think of people like Tommy Wiseau in The Room, and I think of David Lynch, and I think of these weirdos. I'm like, you know what? It's just, you just make what you make and be honest and authentic, and you'll make something good. You know, you really will.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Grab
exactly.
any
And look at that guy won. I mean, he didn't worry. Isn't that his name? The One Punch
Yeah.
Man guy? Or
Him.
Yeah,
What's his
he
name?
could even draw when he started.
Yeah, and he did. And have you guys seen Have you seen? Was it On Goku? Like Our Sound? Oh God, you guys gotta see it. You know what I'm talking about? It's like it's an indie movie. It's Japanese, and this guy's like an indie. He taught himself to animate. This movie took years to make, but it actually looks.
Oh,
pretty
are you
pro.
talking about the Dragon Ball fan film?
No, it's called I want to say it's on Goku or something. I think the translation is Our Sound, and it's these dudes that are like, they're kind of like bully delinquents in high school, but they decide to start a band, but they don't know how to play instruments, and it's so good. And there's a really famous there's a famous Japanese musician that does one of the voices in it. Was it Santaro something? Like he was in what's his fucking name? So Luca got me into him too. He's like kind of a hippie guy. What's his name? Shintaro. Hold on. Shintaro Sakamoto. Do you know him? Because he's a musician, but he animates a lot of his own videos and stuff.
That's interesting.
Yeah, he's a voice in it. He's cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, you guys might like it.
Sorry, what's the name? Let me put it on my list quickly.
Yeah, I want to look at it's
of the movie.
I want to say On Goku. Let me double check. Yeah, wait, no. It's Our Sound is the translation. Hold on.
Oh, On Gaku.
On Gaku.
On Gaku. Okay.
It's really good.
Okay, I am putting this on my list.
Oh my god, it's great.
Oh, I like these character designs.
Yeah, it's cool.
Oh, this looks sick. All right, Crab, you got any final things to add for our outros?
Final things interest. You know, I don't know. It's hard to think of something when you get like asked.
Yeah, when you're on the spot.
Yeah, when I'm on the spot, all I'm gonna say is that just, I guess Ballmasterz, dude. Like, it's just too rad.
Watch Rubicon. Support Rubicon.
I've been promoting the hell out of the show.
If you're in the States,
hey,
support Rubicon at HBO
I appreciate
Max.
it. Listen, Crab has been so helpful making a million videos and posting. I really appreciate it. I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you set this up too.
Yeah.
I'm just glad to support the show because like I want to see this story continued. Like people to understand the way I feel about this show. Like it's just so cool. It's so rad. I would consider it a comfort show to me or something. Like it's just too cool. It just got cool shit in it. It's just rad.
It's funny. There's this part of me that's like, I don't know if you guys know this, but when you pitch a show, they own it, and so if they don't want to do more, I can't really do anything. But there was this part of me. It's like, fuck it. What if I just make these weird, like if you made like an underground comic of it, it just kept but I bet you they wouldn't even get mad. Like, I don't know, but I've thought about like maybe doing that if they don't pick it up because I really
like
do
a
need to
webcomic
finish it.
or
Yeah, like I need to finish it.
That I'd appreciate that rather than going the reboot route and just like being dead in the water forever.
Just call it Cube Masters.
Oh yeah, that's another show that I was watching a lot and got a lot into recently. Was a reboot.
Yeah,
your profile pictures from it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I see. I was thinking it was.
That show is genuinely amazing.
It's great.
I watched the original reboot when it was on TV and I really liked it. And you know what's actually funny? Did you say it was Mainframe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually knew that because I remember going. It was very like fresh at the time. Like there wasn't shit like Clone Wars.
Well, that was the first CG animated cartoon. That was Reboot. Like
ever?
on TV. The first ever fully CG like TV show ever was Reboot. Yeah, it was the first one.
So that's pretty wild.
It was like 1994. That shit was groundbreaking.
And they had like the idea and everything planned out for like 10 years. The tech just wasn't there to make it yet.
Yeah, you can go on YouTube and look up. They pitched it like 3 separate times, and
they were like
it's vastly different each time.
We can't draw this. It has to be CGI.
Yeah. Well, that was the whole appeal, right? And that's why they ended up like, this because of the low poly models, the show's going to take place inside a computer, so every character can be like weird little, polygonal shapes and stuff.
God, you're making me think. What was this one called? Was it Captain Power? There was this weird show where there was a toy, but you could it was like a game, like you could shoot at the screen and it had a lot of flashing lights. I want to say it was called like Captain Power or something. But
Captain
it had
N.
Cool like anime and animation. Hold on. No. Oh, fuck.
Captain Power was that weird live action show where they were like fighting.
Yeah, but there were these
guys.
anime sequences that were like really sick.
You reminded me of this because I actually meant to watch this. This show looks sick. I've never seen this before. I remember my friend was telling me about it.
Here's a link.
Whoa.
Go to like 3 minutes.
Whoa,
or like
hold on.
not even 3, like 2, maybe 2. 220,
Oh,
230.
I'm looking at this right now. What the fuck?
Yeah, it doesn't look like really expensive, shaded, crazy cool.
Whoa.
It's got
Okay,
like
this is
it's got like
rad.
some Macross like shot transitions in
Yeah.
here. It's wild.
But it was like this. The toy was like it was like a ship, but you held it like a gun and you would like shoot at the screen.
They did something similar like that in the 2000s. They did a show called Web Diver, and it was a mecha show. But the toy could literally the toy was a transforming robot that did like a bunch of modes. But one of the modes it had was it would turn into a controller, and it was a plug-and-play console.
God, that's actually cool. And
I
you know what's
remember
funny?
because my friend was showing it to me, and I was like, "Holy shit!"
I haven't thought of this or watched it in forever, but it actually is pretty rad. But see all the flashing? I think the flashing had something to do with a light sensor, and that was how the game
Yeah,
worked.
it's like a light gun thing. It's cool.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, here, look at that. That was the toy. See, it's got AV cable because it literally would turn into a controller, and it was a plug-and-play game, but it was also a transformer.
Where was this one?
Ridiculous.
awesome.
Jeez.
It's ridiculous. All right, are we gonna wrap up here? I'm gonna outro us.
Yeah, I'm actually.
All right.
Now I'm actually getting. It's like when you stop, and you're like, oh wait, I'm sleeping.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
It's when you as soon as you stop, you're like your brain stops working. And you're
This
like,
has
"Man."
officially been our longest episode. So
Well, you know what we should do? We should do a part 2 for sure,
yeah.
and we can get even deeper.
Oh,
Because I bet you will all think of stuff like, oh, I forgot to talk about this.
Yeah, no, there'll be a lot to talk about. So, it's been wonderful. We have, of course, the wonderful Christy Karacas. Thank you so much for coming on. Support Ballmasterz Rubicon. It's on HBO Max. And how will people outside the States support it? Because we do not have HBO Max in Canada.
Gosh, I really don't know because I think all this stuff's different. So, if
Because
you
I
live
was-
outside the United States, please pirate it.
Yeah.
I wish that it got like a Blu-ray release.
Yeah,
because
because there was when it came out, there was no way for us to support it, so we kind of had to pirate it because there's no HBO Max here. So it's
No, you know what we tried to do? Because we were like, man, we want to support it so bad. So we were like, Crab, could you like get on and stream it for us?
Oh, and like you watch through a live stream or something?
through
Yeah.
screen share on Discord.
Yeah.
You know what we could do too? Like, so your podcast is always just audio with images, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we could think of something creative like,
Throw the entire
Video,
special
but-
over the episode.
or maybe we just talk over it, do a live, like like
Oh,
director's
that'd be
commentary.
awesome. I'd love to do
We
a
can all
commentary.
talk about it. We could be like,
I'd love that.
oh, this reminds me of this, and that might be fun.
Yeah, no, that'd be wonderful.
And I could get permission so they don't pull it down. You know?
Oh,
that'd
that'd
be
be
sweet.
rad.
That'd be sweet.
That'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Then it would get banned worldwide like the Sonic R one did, or the Sonic OVA.
I love that you guys and someone else. They were like, "Is it supposed to be like an OVA?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, that's
It's an
what I
OVA.
used-
That's how I
Yeah,
describe
that's what I
it.
used to watch, but I didn't know if people use that word.
That's why I thought it was weird when they labeled it as like episode 11 or whatever,
Yeah.
of season 2.
I was so annoyed.
The second I heard of Rubicon and it being its own separate thing, I tell people, I'm like, dude, it's literally an OVA. Like, when the first image dropped, when the official announcement came out, and I saw the new style, I was like, oh, dude, literally gonna be an OVA. It's so
Well,
sick.
straight up, that's just what that is what it is. It is an OVA. It is an original video animation. It was
Yeah.
like yeah, in every intent, definitely. All right, so we have Christy here. We have Crab. We can find you on, or I guess also I'll do our social media handles because Christy, they can find you on Instagram at Christy Karacas.
Yeah, and
I'll
on
have the
Twitter
links.
too, and I need followers. Follow me, please.
I will put the links, or whoever uploads it will put the links in the description of this video. We have Crab Nicholson.
Thank you. Yeah.
The great Crab, the
Crab
number one
_
Ballmasterz
Nicholson.
fan.
Crab _ Nicholson on Instagram. We have, of course, Ham Wallet, the regular. You know where to find him. Instagram.
Yeah, with 2 T's, not the
with
one
2
T.
T's, of course, with the famous 2 T's. And we have myself, Getter Ronin Workshop. You can find me on Instagram there, that name. All of our links will be in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know it's been a very long episode, but we've had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I guess let's stop recording.
Yeah.
Awesome.